morning and welcome to the AM News here on the AM Show. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Now to our very first story. Parliament has approved a $750 million loan facility for government to finance capital and growth-related expenditures in the country. This loan is part of a $1 billion loan the minority had resisted for weeks. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had told Parliament the country would have gone bankrupt without it. Part of this arrangement, a $250 million loan component is still outstanding following concerns of the majority. Minority, I beg your pardon. Our parliamentary correspondent, Kweku Asante, has more in the following report.
The minority in Parliament had resisted the approval of the facility, and for weeks, progress stalled on the deal. Government was in a desperate need of a $1 billion loan to shore the country's foreign reserve and also to support the 2022 budget. The major part of that deal, a $750 million loan to be sourced from the Afrexim Bank, has now been approved by Parliament.
As many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. All against, say no. Ayes have it. Mr. Speaker.
According to Chairman of the Finance Committee, Kweku Asante, his colleagues needed to approve the loan because it was critical to enable government to deliver on its responsibilities.
The committee, Mr. Speaker, having carefully examined the agreement, is convinced that the facility forms part of government's international capital market program aimed at raising funds to finance critical infrastructure projects in the 2022 budget. Accordingly, we urge this House to approve this motion and to approve this facility in order that we may reap the benefit that the facility would bring.
Ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kisela Toforsen, explained what made the minority change their stance.
Mr. Speaker, as we speak, our debt is simply not sustainable, and it should be noted that this matter is of national importance and something that all of us will have to come together and deal with it. Mr. Speaker, as a result of the fact that our debt is not sustainable, investors have started panicking to the extent that some of them have started exiting our market. I do not have basis to reject this loan on the grounds that it is going to, in a way, support the reserves. Speaker, apart from that, I will have no basis to support this. But I agree that the $750 million is in the budget. And so it calls on all of us to support it. But Mr. Speaker, because of the debt sustainability issues, the minister must take steps to reduce government expenditure. So, Speaker, that is the elephant in the room. Speaker, with these few words, I support the motion. Thank you.
The majority insists, though, that the deal is extremely important to keep the government running.
No one in this chamber will doubt the fact that COVID and the Ukraine-Russia war has affected the world economy. Nobody would be in doubt of that fact. And I'm happy that our colleagues have not disputed this fact. Somewhere. We have begun from somewhere. We'll get somewhere. So, Mr. Speaker, these must be considered, and I believe that government in good faith will utilize these funds for the purpose intended.
One of the central arguments against the loan by the minority has been their concerns about what exactly the funds will be used for. Despite government listing a number of projects, some NDC MPs are still not enthused.
Mr. Speaker, there are projects that have listed here, and that need to be reconciled properly. We are aware that they came here for money to build stadium. They are still allocating money for the same stadium. There must be reconciliation. We are aware that they brought loans here to build Swami Interchange. They are still allocating money here for Swami Interchange. Mr. Speaker, we also know that Eastern Corridor Lots 5 and 6 is already on contract under a loan project. If this is the way you are going to, if you just want 750 million, tell us, and you want a blank check because your situation is hopeless, tell us to approve for you. Don't come and put things here you don't intend to do.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had told Parliament that the country would have gone bankrupt if this $750 million component of the larger $1 billion deal was not approved by the House. This would have meant that the country would have gone the ways of countries like Sri Lanka, who do not have enough foreign reserve to purchase commodities on the international market. The chairman of the Finance Committee, Kweku Asante, had told Joy News that without this amount of money, government would have struggled to pay salaries and meet its international debt obligations.
MP for Bongo Edward Bauer raised concerns about the quorum of the House, but was ignored.
Approve this. We don't.
Once again, the Deputy Speaker to take the chair.
And we don't have a quorum to approve this.
Now, a survey by the Advanced Local Leadership Innovation Network has revealed that less than 1% of farmers in the 4 regions of the north use the one village, one dam during the dry season. The data also shows that only 9% of commercial farmers use the one village, one dam program for commercial activities. Our Northern Regional correspondent, Martina Bugri, has more in the following report.
The Advanced Local Leadership Innovation and Network is implementing a 3-year project in 4 areas in different institutions in Ghana. The institutions include the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, and the University of Energy and Natural Resource, with collaborative research grants from their partners. The projects are to, among others, find out the impact of the irrigation on improved productivity and market value for smallholder farmers, evidence-based from the One Village, One Dam policy in Ghana, household resilience in northern Ghana using communication to reinforce nutrition outcomes and poverty reduction, among others. Speaking to the media, President and CEO of the International Center for Evaluation and Development, Dr. David Safo Amiao, said the data also showed 45% use the dams to feed their livestock.
If in the one dam, one district program, they go in, as you saw today, they were saying that only 9% of them use it for commercial activities. About 45 to 47% use it to feed their livestock. The question is, if we change the design, if we deepen it, if there's enough water during the dry season, are we going to see increase in commercialization? Are we going to see more livestock? Are we even going to see dry season, farming? Our data shows that it's almost zero. People who are using the dam to do dry season is very minimal.
The principal investigator for the One Village, One Dam evaluation project, Professor Charles Amwate, said most of the communities use the dams for household use instead of their intended purpose.
The GIMPA team, we are doing the evaluation of the One Village, One Dam. It's a very interesting initiative considering that a lot of farmers rely on rainfall for their farming activities, but over the years the rainfall pattern has been very unpredictable, meaning that they are unable to do dry season farming. So this policy was meant to address that challenge, to provide source of water for dry season farming. But we have observed few issues with the design of the dam. Relatively they are smaller, and also so it does not provide the needed water capacity that is needed for farming. We also realized that most of the communities we visited were relying on the dam water for drinking water and for their livestock. So they do not encourage the farmers to use the water because it's not enough to serve the purpose. And so we think that going forward, government should consider the possibility of either building more of the dams or building bigger dams so that we can have a higher retaining capacity of the dams, enough to be able to serve the purpose of dry season farming.
Now let's still stay in the Northern Region, where the Northern Regional Peace Council has engaged micro, medium and small-scale enterprises in Sanyerugu as part of efforts to stem violent extremism. The council says that these people will be the first point of contact in the event of any extremist attack. Martina Bugri has more in this report.
Speaking to Joy News at the opening ceremony of a 3-day training workshop in Tamale, the Deputy Director of Programs at the Northern Regional Peace Council, Nuhu Abukari, said studies in other jurisdictions show extremists use business enterprises as entry points in their operations.
Rationale for the 3-day training for the micro, small, and then medium enterprises is to build resilience for the prevention of violent extremism. Studies have revealed that in other areas, extremists use business enterprises as an entry point because they need some of the items that they trade, and they also deal with them in terms of selling either their products or buying food items. So the business enterprises are more likely to encounter them either at the border areas or at the market centers.
A speech delivered by a member of the Northern Region Peace Council, Ajia Ajarateli, on behalf of the chairman of the Peace Council, Reverend Philip Name, said the location of Ghana within the Sahel region makes Ghana vulnerable to violent extremism organizations and call for a multifaceted approach to deal with the canker.
The location of Ghana within the Sahel region makes Ghana vulnerable to violent extremist organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot ignore this threat or wish it away. Preventing violent extremism through addressing drivers and enablers is a must and require multifaceted responses across government and beyond. That includes working with national stakeholders, local government and traditional authorities, religious leaders, civil society organizations, academia, medium and small enterprises, as well as the communities.
The municipal chief executive for the Sanergo municipality, Mohamed Polo, on his part said violent extremism cannot be defeated with only a military base.
It is clear that violent extremism will not and cannot be defeated by a military base alone. That is why I'm happy that the focus of this workshop is to strengthen and build the capacity of women and the youth to rise above the conditions that cause them to be lured into violent extremism.
Now, it's been exactly 3 years since the Joy Clean Ghana campaign began. Now, 3 years after this initiative, Joy News' Michael Papani-Ashale has been touring some restaurants and eateries to assess the impact of the initiative. He did the tour with the Accra Metropolitan Assembly.
We have found out that their medical certificates are not here, and she is telling me that all their cars are at Abeka, that is where their head office is. And she herself being the manager, she hasn't also done it. And she's telling me she did hers in Kumasi. When we are done with the inspections and we don't see the cars, we are going to lock down up the place.
About a year ago, when officials of the AMA sanitation team were compelled to shut down the Las Palmas restaurant.
To Las Palmas is an eatery place where a lot of people patronize. Looking at their louvers was very dirty. There's no toilet facility in here. Tomorrow morning, the officer in charge here will be here with the sanitation task force to come and lock the place.
Despite their shock and disappointment, the management of the eating place promised to bounce back, but this required some tough measures, including job losses. The tough love appears to have paid off, as the AMA team is now impressed with the state of the restaurant.
Now the toilet has been provided because we couldn't understand why a restaurant should be there without a sanitary facility. So it was one of the things that we closed out the place, but it has been provided. So, yeah.
Okay. So you've seen the toilet facility for yourself. Florence, what are you heading to right now?
We are going to the customer's washroom.
Did you check that place out the last time that you came here?
There weren't none. They had a room, but it was not in operation.
There was no place for them to clean up after themselves?
There wasn't any urinal when we came. Yes, but now they have a urinal, and the septic tank is at the back.
It's also beside the point that they just have a urinal. What is the state of the urinal? Is it satisfactory?
The urinal is okay, yes. It is in good condition. They've cleaned the place, it's neat.
On their part, new manager of the place explains the response has been great. But maybe say a day no but bounce on the environment so sun net no in one sana ni ha ni sanya no then bad no catch
mo see dey say hanu mama ye hanu ma e fine ti yen koso an ye ni so
no it is maybe some more. What would be your overall assessment at the time when you came 6 months ago? How would you rate them at the time?
In fact, at the time I would have rated them 35, but today I can rate them 75. Yes,
the remaining
A. That is an A. They still need to work on it. As you can see, they are still working around.
The team then visited the OA bus terminal, which previously had its washroom in a deplorable state.
So this place, the last time we came, we closed it down because they had broken WCs and there were more or less, what will I say, weapons on their own. So this place was closed down for 24 hours, and within 24 hours, all the WC bowls were removed and they turned the place into a poor flash.
Our last week that we came, I think we've come for re-inspection. We realized that they refixed all the water closets. So now they've changed the water closet to a poor flash type. So this one, there is constant water supply there that they will use the water to flush it.
Manager of the facility is convinced their routine monitoring and cleaning system is yielding results.
Right now, everything is intact. I'm checking them day in and day out to do what is proper for the public. So because of the guy which has been employed, the newly boy, he used to do those things for us, which is, to our satisfaction.
But ever since you changed this, what have your customers been telling you?
They've been telling us the place looks so nice and beautiful.
The new state of the Circle branch of Las Palmas and the washroom at OA Bus Terminal are just two of the many success stories of the Joy Clean Ghana campaign. It appears not everyone got the Clean Ghana memo. What's happening here?
So what is happening here is you can see it's like it rains and there was flooding. So when there was flooding, the water entered all the water and they are washing it and repackaging it. How can you know that there is no microorganisms that has found their way inside here? And then you repack it and how can you even just see they've washed but it's not properly washed? So you can see the kind of things we are eating from outside. Should we stop buying things outside?
What's your name?
Abdul Latif. What happened is last 2 months ago in May 29, there was a big flood here, so we received a lot of water. When it rainfalls, we normally consider a lot of water here. So this is what happened to us here.
So because of the floods, they got dirty and you're washing them. But that's 2 months ago. Why are you washing it now?
We have a lot of problem here, so we are going through.
So it means that you've already sold some that you've already repacked?
Yes, sir.
Florence, how disturbing is this really for you?
It's very, very disturbing. It's very, very, very. You see, he's doing it indirectly. He is hiding behind his own money. And people are using money to buy their own sickness. Why should you do that, Daddy?
If I said I have an idea for it that I will sell a bad thing to someone, I've lied to the creator. And I will never do that. But once that you have came in and advising us not to do that, we also take a step. If I say I really have an idea, I know that if I watch them, because I think personally that is a mad, so I just need to watch them.
Since when did you start repackaging them?
That was last month. Yeah, last month.
We will do check and then ensure that everything that in there, there's no expired product in there. You haven't repackaged anything. So now, please, if you have anything inside the shop, just go inside and take your things. We are locking the shop.
Which of them?
All the two. All.
We don't have any problem here. If you can lock
we cannot attest. So you just take your things and we are locking all the two, please.
Well, this is just one more reason why, despite the successes chalked so far, the struggle continues. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Now, 3 brilliant but needy students have benefited from a scholarship facility from the Alumni Association of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The facility will cater for the accommodation, cost of feeding, as well as tuition. Lab FM's Kwesi Deborah has more in the following report.
3 beneficiaries of the scholarships are Miss Faustina Boateng, a BSc midwifery student, Miss Ruth Anagmusi, a BSc Medical Laboratory Technology student, and Lambon Ruben, an Aquaculture and Water Resource Management student. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Rita Kusia-Dixon, emphasized the importance of students' welfare to the sustainable development of the nation. She also urged other chapters of the alumni to come on board.
And we will continue to ask for more. Because as for the poor and needy, we will always have them amongst us. So today you are doing 3. Our brother from North America, the target to do 20. I would even challenge you that don't add yours to the 20 that they will be doing locally. Do 20 out there and then gradually sell the story to the other chapters and let them all come to KNUST. Let them come home and assist these young ones. When we are sure about their future, then the future of this country and the world is also assured.
The president of the Global Association of Alumni, Dr. Kwaku Agbesi, expressed the desires of the association to increase the beneficiaries of the scholarship scheme in the coming years.
Our target is to be able to at least support 20 students every academic year so that we can be more impactful and support the good works being done by the VC and the management. And the only thing we can do is to help her to succeed so that we will not become the 14th best in the world, but we will become the best in the world.
On behalf of the beneficiaries, Ms. Faustina Boateng expressed a profound gratitude to the association and encouraged the association to do more for other students.
On behalf of my brother and my sister, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you. God richly bless you all for your doing, and we hope you do more for others. We are really grateful. We're not expecting this. I say thank you so much. I don't know how to say this, but thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. We're all thinking about, even sometimes what to eat is even a problem. The fees we are paying, they're asking for registration fees, we'll be calling home, a whole lot of things. Sometimes we cry inside as we pray. Oh God, also bless God for this opportunity.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
That's all for the bulletin. The show continues with Benjamin Akakpo and Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Do stay.
Hi there, welcome to Thursday and it's time for the news review. Let's switch it up a bit. Today I'm going to be doing this standing on my feet. Anyway, we're about to get into the papers and we'll be checking out what they have to tell us this morning. We'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper, and it says 5 billion Ghana cedis paid in bribes to public officials according to a survey the UNODC, and let me get you the details of that, but it makes for very interesting reading because guess what? We pay so much in terms of bribes in this country. And in terms of the institutions that are implicated in this entire development, that is what has left some of us scratching our heads, literally. But let's get into the story. It's on page 16 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Here it is. So it says, nearly 5 billion Ghana cedis was paid in cash as bribes to public officials last year, a new survey that gauges the actual payment or actions that constitute bribes has revealed. Now, the 2021 Maiden Ghana Integrity of Public Services Survey, that is the GIPS report, which was launched in Accra yesterday, is the first survey on the actual payment of bribes, a departure from the perception that previous studies surveyed. So you would realize that in previous studies, in fact, we have the Corruption Perception Index, the CPI, among others, and politicians who will find leeway, moving room to tell you that, oh, but this is mere perception. This is factual. So the report indicated that 9 out of 10 bribes were paid in cash. These cash bribes, it revealed, were equivalent to almost 1/3 of the 2021 budget of the Ministry of Education. So these cash bribes put together constitute about 1/3 of the budget for the Ministry of Education. Imagine that in reference to free SHS, and the way we're struggling to feed students and all of that, and the hurdles we have when it comes to textbooks at the lower level. Think about all these problems and what these sums of money could have done in the educational sector. But all of that has been filtered away through corruption. Let's get some more details. Now, the GIPS is a nationally representative population-based survey that provides internationally comparable measures of corruption. And guess what? The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice commissioned the survey in collaboration with the Ghana Statistical Service, with support from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. So 3 bodies in there. We have SHRAJ commissioning it, we have the Ghana Statistical Service supporting, and the UNODC. So the field work involved a survey of 15,000 respondents, quite a large grouping. Usually with these surveys, you would have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. This is very representative. 15,000 respondents, one of the biggest sample sizes in both urban and rural areas of all the regions of the country. The report covered the scope of bribery, who takes bribes, how bribery works, gender dimensions, nepotism, and vote buying in Ghana. I don't want to give you, you would need the report to get the nitty-gritty, all the fine details of what it evinces, but it is a damning report, especially as you know that Ghana lost some 5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption in 2021. Some other details that probably we would all want to take stock of. It has to do with the fact that 26.7% of adult Ghanaians have paid bribes to a public official. Think about that. That's just about what? 25%, 20% thereabouts of our population. In fact, if it's 26.5%, then it is indeed a quarter, 25% of our population, in terms of the adult population, has paid a bribe to a public official. There is also the bit about persons aged between 25 and 34 being the most likely to pay bribes. And here's maybe another stinger, a twist in the tail. Educated people, those that you would think would know better, are more likely to give bribes. All of these are contained in that new research piece. So let's take some of the reactions of those involved. The Deputy Commissioner of SHRAJ, Richard Akom-Quason, at the launch of the report yesterday, explained that the GIPS was the first comprehensive nationally representative population survey on corruption with the sole purpose of collecting evidence-based information on forms of corruption affecting the population. So this is very welcome, especially for us as media people, and it also is a great novelty that we're very happy about. There's also the bit about the reaction from the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobina Enim, who presented highlights of the report, indicating that more than a quarter of the adults among those surveyed, like I indicated, that is 26.7%, had paid bribes in the 12 months preceding the survey, mainly in 2021. Now, the frequency with which bribes are paid was another important dimension of public sector corruption, according to the survey. It indicated, hold your breath, it indicated that bribe payers paid an average of 5 bribes in the 12 months prior to the survey, resulting in an average of 0.98 bribes paid per adult in 2021. So really, if the picture is this dire as this report paints, and for me, from what I see and what I know, it is worse than this. But let's stick to these statistics. If this is what we're seeing, then we have a lot of work to do. And some of the institutions that are, pointed to in terms of being on this ignominious league table, it leaves a whole lot to be desired. But this is where we find ourselves as a country, and only time will tell how we're going to deal with these situations, how we're going to emerge from corruption. But those are some details of it. You can grab further details on page 16 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's get some other angles to different conversations. Parliament approves $750 million loan agreement. We all know about what has transpired in Parliament on the back of that syndicated loan and the differences in Parliament. But yesterday, listening to Dr. Kasialato Forsen, ranking member on the Finance Committee, among others, mention was made of the fact that, look, if we are in these dire straits, we would have to do something to salvage the economy. But mention was made as well of all these road projects and other things that are being thrown in, including the one in Swami. And whether these are not just avenues to funnel money into certain pockets or out of, the economic space. So we put in a lot of projects that seemingly we're going to do and end up not doing them. Just as we have so many projects that we've put in our budgets time and again that we're going to construct with funding, and there is nothing to show. So that story is on page 16. Let's take a look at it. Parliament approved $750 million loan agreement, and Parliament has approved a $750 million loan agreement to finance capital and growth-related expenditures in the 2022 budget. The facility forms part of government's international capital market program aimed at raising funds to finance critical infrastructure projects in sectors such as roads, energy, railways, and health, as captured in the 2022 budget. Proceeds from the facility will also enable the government to meet its revenue projections in the budget and support government's liability management. Our liabilities are many, our assets not so much, so we have to manage them. The agreement, which is between the government of Ghana and the African Export-Import Bank, that is the Afrexim Bank, is also expected to provide the needed foreign exchange to shore up the reserves of the Bank of Ghana, which have declined from 9 billion to 3 billion. And we all know the statistics from January 2022 and how low it has fallen in just 6 months. Per a report submitted by the chairman of the Finance Committee, Kweku Kwarteng, who moved the motion for the House to approve the loan yesterday, proceeds from the loan would be applied to finance the Ofankor-Nsawam Road, $200 million. So if you live on that stretch, be looking out for this road. The Ejiso Konongo Road, and I have many friends who are from Konongo, $75 million. And the completion of the Nsawam Apedja Road project, which is going to cost some $10 million. We ought to hold our leaders more accountable for such funds because, like I keep saying, in the course of this Fourth Republic, there are certain road projects that we've assigned so many times, time and again, pumping money into the same project, budgeting for it with nothing to show. Either it is not done, or there are so many kickbacks and all of that that the project stalls. I know of projects currently, some of them I'm sifting information for, where some of the funds have been diverted into certain things, and now 3 lanes are turning into 2 lanes and all of that. These are things that, I've not mentioned anyone's name, but these are all problems with our construction of roads. And a lot of the time when you go to the contractors, they'll tell you so many horrendous stories, kickbacks and all of that. So we would rather line our own pockets than deliver good roads to the people. Anyway, I nearly said something, but I think I should hold my breath there. So looking at it, the others are the Swami interchange, like I mentioned, and local roads projects, $47 million. The completion of the Flower Pot interchange, and there's a lot to look at when it comes to that one. The Flower Pot interchange, Legon Accra, $35 million. Completion of the Sofo line interchange, $35 million. The construction of the Kwabenya Peduasi Road, $10 million. And the completion of the Eastern Corridor, lots 5 and 6, $70 million. The rest, 2 more to go. Enchikrom, Adorso, Adoso road project, $98 million, and the purchase of rolling stock and spare parts, $30 million. Then the construction of stadia infrastructure for the African Games, $140 million. So quite a number of projects that we've earmarked. Time will tell. And I'm very blunt. You know me, I don't hide my feelings. Time will tell whether we'll execute all of these should we get the requisite funding. And within time, because in project management, they'll tell you that there are so many things to look at for a project. There's quality, there's a time factor, logistics, so many things, whether we're going to be able to meet those definitions. Now, in justification for the loan per the report, the credit facility had become necessary because of the decision by the government not to use the capital market to raise financing until market conditions improved. Additionally, it said the increasing withdrawal of non-resident investors in Ghana's domestic bonds market with its implications for the level of reserves for the Bank of Ghana and foreign exchange management generally required the injection of additional foreign currency. As for us, we always need additional foreign currency, just as we're going to the IMF currently. I was at an event yesterday with the likes of Joe Winfall, the likes of Edem Senanu, Professor Bokpin, and others. And it is interesting that we've still not been able to cure ourselves of this malaise. I was mentioning yesterday that politically, a party wants to break the 8, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is fantastic if you want to do that for continuity, if they can. But the problem is, how about thinking about breaking our seeming jinx when it comes to going to the IMF? And some people would go on to say that, oh, look, we are a member of the IMF. So, yeah, I mean, if we go there. Actually, one of the reasons we joined the IMF, the core reason for joining the IMF is not to do what we're doing, always going for these bailouts. That is not. Go ask the economists. It is not. Do you see the US going to the IMF? Do you see the UK going to the IMF? Do you see Japan going to the IMF? Mind you, they may go there for intellectual assistance on certain grounds. There are different packages of the IMF. Some are assistance in terms of, economic guidance and others. With ours, we're always going pan in hand, begging for money. Anyway, so that is it with that story. There's also page 17, politics, outcome of the MPP's elections, a paradigm shift to break the 8. And the story there, a lot to read from there. Well, let me announce that we've been joined by Liz Hefenasari, who joins the conversation. Hello, a very good morning to you, Liz. Hello, Liz.
Hello.
Okay.
Good morning.
Right, media consultant Liz Hefenasari joins the conversation. How are you doing this morning?
I'm tired, but I'm fine.
I can tell by looking at you. I am very tired as well. Yesterday was quite a day for me, long day. But here we are doing what we do best, serving the people.
The whole of last week, I was through the Eastern region, Volta region, Oti region.
I see. What have you been up to?
Sensitizing the populace on the Right to Information Act.
Okie doke, okie doke. And how has it gone so far? How is the information sinking down?
Well,
how is it sinking? I mean,
I think that there's still a lot more work to be done, a lot more sensitization to be done. Some people who are interested in the Information Act know that it has been passed. They don't know what it contains. Others have no idea that there is a Right to Information Act at all.
So those are interesting. I want your quick thoughts on this bit, and it's because you missed out when I was sharing my thoughts on it. 5 billion Ghana cedis paid in bribes to public officials. That's according to a survey. So just to give you a wrap, this was commissioned by Shraj, and assisting were the Ghana Statistical Service and the UNODC, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes. And just to give you a briefing, so this reveals that 9 out of 10 bribes paid in 2021 were paid in cash, that nearly 5 billion Ghana cedis was paid in cash as bribes to public officials last year, that the cash bribes were equivalent to almost 1/3 of the 2021 budget of the Ministry of Education. That's how large it is. And maybe to add to those figures, that 26.7% of adult Ghanaians have paid a bribe to a public official, that persons aged between 25 and 34 are more likely to pay a bribe, and that, interestingly, educated people are more likely to pay bribes. We'll be bringing more details of this when we get to our big stories. But what is your quick thinking on this development list?
It's sad. It's sad. It's very sad. And it's not a good reflection of us as a people at all. But again, you realize that to get things done, and especially those who are in the private sector working with the public sector, they need the things done quickly. Probably have gone for a loan that is accruing interest and things like that. So to get their papers through quickly, and due to a bureaucratic system, it probably would want to speed things up. So would think that giving somebody an inducement would let them attend to their work quickly. But then it is not a good image for us at all. I believe that we need to be honest. We need to be truthful as a people. And if we claim that 70% of us are Christians, then who are the ones that are taking the bribes? Are they the non-Christians? You can't say so. And so we just give ourselves a name tag and do the opposite. And it's a damning situation that we are in. And I think that a lot needs to be done to clean up the system. And I heard you earlier talk about people having paid bribe 5 times. So you can just imagine. Some time ago, I knew that when you went into the ministry with a file or something to get it done, they'll tell you that, oh, if there's no weight on it, then it will fly away. And I'm like, what kind of a people are we? Why are we doing this to ourselves? We won't do it to the foreigners when they come in. When a Ghanaian comes to your table, that's what you do to him. And you expect that we'll get good quality work when you're taking part of the monies that they're going to use for the work in bribes. It won't work that way. It's very bad.
It is indeed quite a terrible situation. But let's get into some other stories here. And sustaining Galamsey fight, Lands Ministry to track excavators, control room ready. Let's get into that story, shall we? All excavators and mining concessions will be tracked electronically as part of major measures to clamp down on illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, has disclosed. Already, he said the Minerals Commission had set up a control room for the effective rollout of the initiative and was working to complete the procurement of the tracking devices in a couple of months. Now, speaking at the Meet the Press series in Accra only yesterday, the minister said the decision to deploy the tracking devices was to enforce the minerals and mining, that is Mineral Operations Tracking of Earth Moving and Mining Equipment Regulations 2020 LI 2404 that empowered the Commission to track all earth-moving machines and equipment used in mining operations. In terms of enforcement, Mr. Jinapor, who is also the Member of Parliament for Damongo, explained that as part of measures to fight Galamsey, the Ministries of Lands and Natural Resources, Transport and National Security had worked together to ensure that the importers of all earth-moving equipment obtained permits before bringing the equipment into the country. He goes on to talk about other aspects of our land resources. The only aspect that leaves my mind boggled is how this could have impacted the excavators that apparently flew away some time back after being confiscated. I'll say it. And all of that. But anyway, let's see whether these excavators can be located. I think we would also add on the back page ECG to audit meters and remove fake ones. The ECG has said that the planned audit of meters of customers is part of an elaborate strategy to eradicate fake meters from the system. So it's undergoing a drive. The auditing will capture customers' data, including their registered phone numbers, Ghana card and passport details, and other means of identification for effective monitoring of power consumption. Your thoughts on these two? and we shall proceed to the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
I think that both are good measures if we want to clean up our system, especially with the excavators. But my question is, if you're tracking excavators now, what about the ones that are in the system already? I believe that you can't place a tracking system on something that is in the system. So what is being done to make sure that all excavators in the country have been identified, and if the tracking devices will be put on them because they're in country already, fine. But we know that we can track those that are coming in, because he has said that you'd have to get a license and things like that. So for those that are coming in, yes. What about those that are in the system already? And it's those that are in the system already that's causing the problem. We probably would need to look at being able to survey all the areas where mining is going on, especially illegal mining, and hunt down all the excavators. Like you said, the 500 that we had that flew away, where did they fly to? Where did they go? Are they back in the areas where they were before? So if we can get them, then we need to get them and track them, and that is the only way we'll be able to clean our waters. With ECG, I thought that they were the only ones who were bringing in our meters. So if they're fake ones, is it that people were bringing in meters and installing it themselves without ECG's knowledge? So ECG should come again. If they were the ones who were giving us the meters, how come we have fake meters instead of having proper meters?
Good questions, very good questions there. And only time will tell. But let's look at other aspects. In fact, let's veer into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Stopping mining on river bodies. Government acquires 5 patrol boats for use by security services to stem that menace. That story is on page 16. So let's see, especially in terms of the Shangfangs and others. The government has procured 5 new patrol boats to be used by the security services as part of measures to stem the menace or stem the tide of mining on river bodies in the country. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Samuel Abu-Jinapor, has disclosed. The boats, he said, would be deployed on the rivers Ankobra and Pra in the western region, Brim in the eastern region, and the Black Volta in the Savannah region by the end of August. He says, as a more lasting solution to the pollution of our river bodies, I am happy to announce that the ministry has procured 5 patrol boats which will be used by the security services to patrol and protect our rivers, he said. All right, so the story about corruption is also in the middle spread of the paper. Then we have Major Mahama pointed gun at us. That story is on page 3. And one of the accused in the death of Major Maxwell Mahama, that is William Barr, the assembly member for Dentrabuasi in the Central Region, told the Accra High Court that Major Maxwell Mahama pointed a gun at him and other accused persons. A quick reflection on these matters.
Okay, so the patrol boats, that kind of answers my question, because if you have patrol boats, then you'll be able to see where the excavators are, those that haven't been licensed already, and if they're seized, either they are used they are used in better places, or they're used for better kinds of mining, legal mining instead of illegal mining. But then if you get the excavators, what about those who own the excavators who have polluted our waters? I hope we are able to get them also and let them face the law for illegal mining. Your other story was on Maxwell Mahama.
Yes.
He's not here to defend himself. I don't know what to say to that.
The dead don't speak.
Yes, and I don't know what to say to that. Is that a way of the accused getting away with murder? I don't know, and therefore more thorough investigations need to be done. And I'm sure there's more than that. There were more people around than the accused. So if people are confident enough and will feel safe giving their version or the eyewitness account of what took place, then we probably would be able to have a very good case. But I think that this has lingered too long. Justice delayed seems to be justice denied, and this is taking quite a while.
Let's wrap with these two newspapers, and then we call it a conversation. The Daily Guide newspaper. Parliament approves $750 million for CapEx. We've been talking about that. There's a government to inject $7 million into private forest plantations. And there's also Mills's brother fights Anyidoho over grave. I don't know whether you followed that story, but very interesting. Kwaku Anyidoho becoming a one-man, aficionado, if you like, for the former president. And that is the late Professor Mills. And being the arrowhead for the Atta Mills Center. Of course, there are two institutes or centers, one by the NDC, one by Kwaku Anyidoho, and one approved by the party, the other by Kwaku, not approved by the party. But recently there have been some developments at the Asumdwe Park that Atta Mills' family has felt is not in the right direction because they were not informed. We're told, however, from CODA, the Coastal Development Authority, and others, that it was with their knowledge, but the family says they have no idea, and they feel it is not right, especially considering our cultural context, among other things. But of course, some of these things are being done because we are looking at the 10th anniversary of the untimely demise of our former president. So that story is there as well. In the middle spread, maybe some stories that, especially for our young viewers, might excite you. DJ Khaled, or Khaled, like most of us pronounce it, eulogizes a black sheriff. And he's been talking about how, in an Instagram post on Tuesday, which I saw and was fascinated about, the DJ shared a short video of black sheriff singing Kweku the Traveler. And the DJ is happy about the Ghanaian musician, and he wrote underneath the post saying, "At Black Sheriff, keep going. Music that touches your soul." Interesting one there. Quick reflection on the bit about the Atta Mills, his brother fighting Kwaku Anyidoho over the grave. And then on page 7 of the Business Finder newspaper, Ghana to retain $2 billion each year through new mining local content policy. That's according to the lands minister. Quick thoughts on these, and it's a wrap.
The entertainment one, I have no idea who you're talking about.
I suspected as much.
I have nothing to say on that one. With the Atta Mills grave, it's a very distressing thing for the family, I believe. I mean, if you have buried a loved one and somebody tampers with the grave, it has all kinds of things that you go through, all kinds of emotions.
And this is a former president, not just anybody, a former president.
And so it's very distressing. When I heard it, I was incensed. I was like, how would anybody go and do something like that without informing the family? Now, having informed the family and getting the family's consent are two different things. So if Kodak said that they informed the family, did they have a conversation with the family? Because if there was no conversation with the family, then you just don't go ahead and do what you want to do. You need to get the family's consent. And like they said, I listened to one of the reports where a family member was saying that they needed one member of the family to be present if they were doing something like that. And then the question is that, so if you tampered with the grave, are the remains still in the grave? If the remains are not in the grave, then where are the remains? And I think that we should be circumspect when we are doing things like this. We know that people are born into families. We know how important they are to families. So I don't think you should bypass a family and go and tamper even with the president's grave. Even if we say he's a statesman and he belongs to the country, he still came from a family. And the right things must be done.
The right things must be done. Right.
Which one? 2 billion something.
Oh, yeah, there was that bit, but we don't have enough time. Maybe some other time we shall get into that. It was from the Business Finder, Ghana to retain $2 billion each year through new mining local content policy. That's according to Samuel Abu-Baidoo. Of course, a lot of the time, like I always say, it's futuristic. Only time will tell whether we actually shall do that.
And let me just say that we have good policies. It's the implementation that is a problem. I don't know why we can't implement the policies we have and stick by what the policy says.
Well, like I said, time will tell. Thank you so much, Liz, for joining the conversation this morning.
Thank you.
Liz Hayfanasari is a media consultant, and she joined us for the news review. But up next, we serve you sports on the AM show. Do stay.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports here on the Joy News channel with me, Oreku Ampofo. We do start off with some disappointing news in the ongoing World Athletics Championships in Oregon, Eugene, United States of America, where Ghana's long-distance runner Alex Amankwa was disqualified in his 800-meter heat that he raced at midnight. The race was around 12:20, 12:30 earlier today, and Alex Amankwa, despite finishing fourth with a good enough time to reach the semi-finals as one of the best, fastest non-qualifying times, he still didn't make the semi-finals because he was disqualified due to lane violation, and so he stepped on the white line before he could legally do so. Well, we'll be bringing you reactions from Oregon much later on our subsequent bulletins. Let's still do some more sports news here, where yesterday a big story broke in terms of local football, and that's Asante Kotoko coach Prosper Nate Ogum, who was reported to have tendered a resignation unofficially to the club. It's expected that the club would confirm the news sometime later this week, but of course, it has been a very, very successful period for Prosper, and it was rumored that he left his role due to tension between himself and the management. And we do have more details for you in this following report put together by Razak Musbah.
Head coach of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, Prosper Nate, has resigned from the club following a meeting between management and the technical body earlier today in Kumasi. Joy Sports understands the coach tendered his resignation due to displeasure with the departure of some of his key players and the seeming lack of transfer activity in the club ahead of the start of next season. Ogum is expected to be without his key players, Fabio Gama, who failed to renew his contract, Salifu Mudasiru, who has joined Moldovan giant FC Sheriff Tiraspol, and Richmond Lamte, who has been banned by the Ghana Football Association for his involvement in the Ashanti Gold Inter-Allies match-fixing scandal. The coach is also set to lose his goal poacher Frank Etuga Imbela to Italian side Udinese Calcio ahead of next season. Ogum is also believed to have been unsettled with management's proposal to acquire a new technical director to offer support and guidance, especially in the club's CAF Champions League campaign. The former Wafa trainer was appointed prior to the start of the 2021-22 Ghana Premier League season and led the club to their first league title in 8 years. He amassed 67 points from 34 games to beat Midiama to the league title. Despite earlier confirming to having received offers from clubs abroad, Coach Ogum's next destination is unknown. Asante Kotoko will participate in this year's CAF Champions League and is determined to make an impact after many failed attempts. But the question remains, who will lead the Porcupine Warriors to battle come next season?
Well, Prosper Nate Ogum leaves at a high because he, remember, won the league title with Kumasi Asante Kotoko. But what legacy will the former Wafa coach leave behind with the Porcupine Warriors?
So many coaches get an opportunity to lead a club as big as Asante Kotoko in the Ghana Premier League. But for Prosper Ogumnate, the signs were clear for him after an impressive work with Wafa. Nicknamed Obenfo, Prosper was named as the new head coach of the Porcupine Warriors after a season that the team missed out on the league title to Accra Hearts of Oak by just 4 points. On his side, he had just led Wafa to a historic third-place finish in the Premier League, a feat that only solidified Kotoko's chase for him. With Kotoko undergoing their preseason in Dubai, there were lots of high hopes for the team going into the 2021-22 season. With quite a number of additions and a new face on the touchline, the team looked set and ready to fight for pride, a title they had missed since 2013-14 season. Prosper's early season magic and the rapport with his players put Kotoko on the right path and eventually marked them the favourite for the title tag even before the end of the first round of the season. His blend of experience and new faces were attributes fans loved about him, and the fact he was achieving results on the field also saw him become a fan's favourite at the Baba Yara Stadium. The Kumasi-based side ended the season with 67 points, amassing 36 points at home and 31 points away from home. Under Prosper, Kotoko travelled to Doma to beat Ediana for the first time in their history at the Nana Ajimanbedu the First Stadium. He was also the mastermind behind the club's first ever win over Wafa in Sogakope. Before him, Kotoko had failed to beat Hearts in Kumasi since 2012, but a 1-0 win in April ended that winless run. As mentioned earlier, he had the privilege to become the first coach to win the league title for the club since 2013-2014. Prosper would have been a major part of the team's campaign in Africa next season, but he resigning now means the club will have to turn attention to other options to lead them as they make a return to continental football. It may just be one season as the gaffer of the club, but Prosper Ogum has definitely left a good impression in the minds of the Porcupines.
Now let's take a closer look at his statistics for the Porcupine Warriors. Oh, here are some records by Prosper Nate Ogum. He won Asante Kotoko their first Ghana Premier League title since 2014. His Kotoko side picked up the most points, that's 31 on the road in the 2021-2022 season. His Asante Kotoko team scored the most goals, that's 48, and conceded the least, 20, in the just ended Ghana Premier League season. He became the first Asante Kotoko manager to beat Accra Hearts of Oak at the Baba Yara since 2012. He also guided Asante Kotoko to beat Ediana Football Club at Doma for the first time in their history, and he also achieved another feat of beating Wafa at Sogakope for the very first time. Remember that it isn't official yet, Prosper Nate Ogum's resignation, but what Joy Sports understands is that he has told management that he wants to resign and would be making that official in terms of writing sometime soon. We do be providing you updates on that developing story or so. But let's move from football and talk about boxing, because Fight Week is here again as former WBO World Super Bantamweight champion Isaac Dogbe is set to clash with USA's Joel Gonzalez in the Grand Casino Hinckley at Minnesota, USA. The winner of the bout will be in line to face Mexico's Ray Vargas, who holds the WBC World Featherweight title. This bout presents Isaac Dogbe with a huge opportunity to edge closer to his dream of becoming a two-division world champion title. Now, the bout comes off on Saturday, July 23, and here is a tale of the tape by my colleague Nathaniel Atto. And so, in terms of the two head-to-head, Isaac Dogbe has 23 wins as compared to Joey Gonzalez 25. Both boxers have lost 2 fights with the same number of knockouts at 15. No draws yet in their careers. Total bouts, Dogbe 25, Joey Gonzalez 27. Knockout rates, Dogbe slightly edges over 60%, ahead of Joey Gonzalez's 56%. In terms of height, Joey Gonzalez is slightly taller, 5 feet 5 inches, and then Dogbe 5'2". In terms of reach, it's 66 for Isaac Dogbe and 68 for Joey Gonzalez. Now, both boxers do have a stance of being orthodox. I would also be doing more analysis ahead of that bout this weekend for Isaac Dogbe himself and what exactly it means to him. But we'll be wrapping up on the AM show, AM Sports here. My name is Oreko Ampofo. In the meantime, if you're after some more sports stories, you can check myjoyonline.com/sports, or you can check our social media at Joy Sports GH. The AM show continues right after this break.
The committee was constituted yesterday. They began work earnestly, and they've gone very far with their work. And we will produce a report, and we will act on the report. Suffice for me to say to you that dealing with galamsey and illegalities in the extractive industry anywhere in the world is quite complicated. And you have some of these challenges and some of these setbacks and so on and so forth. But what is important is for us to assemble the unimpeachable facts first. And then on the basis of the unimpeachable facts, we'll take it from there. Always remember that the people who are purported, and I use this word with emphasis, who are purported to be in the video and alleged to be involved in this conduct, and alleged with emphasis again, are soldiers, are supposed to be soldiers. And if indeed it's established that they are soldiers, it will not be a matter within the remit of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources alone. It will then be a collaborative effort between my ministry and the Ministry of Defense and the leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces. And as you know, the Ghana Armed Forces is a very astute institution which is very adept at dealing with these matters. So early days yet, let's be patient, we'll get to the bottom of it. The strategy and the program and the goal is that we plant trees in the avenues and the medians of the various streets of our country. Wherever anybody's been to, all the developed countries and cities of our world, any city worth its salt, 2 characteristics, 2 key features make the city. Must have a water course or a water body running through the middle of the city. And the medians and the avenues are always planted, or you'll find one type of tree in the medians and avenues of those cities. London is an example, Paris is an example, New York is an example, almost everywhere, even some African countries, South Africa, and so on and so forth. So we are launching this Green Streets project where we are going to make a very ambitious, robust effort to plant trees in the medians and avenues of our regional capital cities. We are beginning with Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, and Tamale, and ultimately we intend to do so for all the 16 regional capitals of
All right, so we kickstart that conversation in terms of basically these medians that are going to be put up, or the trees that are going to be put up in our medians, our road medians. You heard the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources yesterday, and it's one of the matters we're getting into. But we're asking ourselves, of the trees that have been planted already, the 20 million plus, what happened to them in terms of accountability? How many have survived. The other day when Mr. President said about 85% of them had survived, based on what statistic was that put forward? How much have we put into this by way of cost? And this time round, how much is going to be involved? Value for money issues. But let me say welcome to Bernice Abu-Baidoo, Lansah.
Good morning, Benjamin.
Good morning.
How are you doing? Do
Well,
you need
it's
some
another
coffee?
morning. I don't do coffee.
Oh, you don't? So what?
Coffee has the reverse effect on me.
You don't mean it.
I learned that from secondary school at
So
Bishop
what?
Herman
You sleep
Prior,
or you get tired?
So I don't do painkillers and I don't do coffee.
Okay.
So I drink a lot of water and I weather the storm.
That's good.
That's how I treat it.
Then I should get you some water. Good morning to you.
Likely some water would do.
Yes. So we're having that conversation about the trees. I mean, listening to the minister, what pops in my mind is, okay, you've spoken beautifully about how you're going to plant the trees, but you haven't told us how you're going to maintain the trees. We drive in this country. We've seen medians that, initially were looking beautiful, well-kept, lawns in the middle, and 6 months down the line, they're growing into the streets. So, Mr. Minister, the big question is maintenance and not so much of the initiative.
The problem with our country is exactly that, maintenance. We don't have a proper maintenance culture. Individually, we don't have a proper maintenance culture. And it's clear how we look after our vehicles, our homes and stuff. It's clear. But then again, this wouldn't be the first time we're trying, because part of this is an urban beautification project, basically. This wouldn't be the first time we've embarked on such. I don't know, but I've become inured, almost pessimistic when some of these things come up, because like you mentioned, because we don't have a proper maintenance culture, you can also start these things fanciful, but then sometime down the line, the problem is, are they still going to be there? If they are there, how will they look? Will they look like the original plan? And I am also very concerned, especially as we are talking corruption and many other matters, about how much we pump into these specifically. It would be interesting to know, for example, that this specific road median from here to there cost us this much. If we were doing this according to market prices, this is how much it would cost us. Are we going to get value for money? I like to explore all of these angles because I think we're getting sick and tired, if we are not already, as a country, when it comes to, some of these projects and the fanciful things that I said, and the lack of correlation between what is promised and what is delivered.
Talking about promises, we're good at talking, aren't we? Making Accra the cleanest city in Africa.
Yeah.
That's what I'm reminded of this morning.
How has that gone?
Laudable initiative. Everybody will want to see Accra clean. Everybody will want to drive through the streets of Accra and know that, as you drive through it, you're getting some therapeutic benefits as well. Because that's what beauty does. People don't think about the effect it even has on us as a people when we live in beautiful environments. And then you talk about flooding. If Accra is clean, it means that we won't have filth in our drains. And this was a laudable initiative. But where are we now?
Look, I can say for a fact, at least and you know that whichever of our presidents or whoever has become president usually rides on winning the Greater Accra region. I can say for a fact that if we had a leader who would be able to tackle the flooding problem in Accra, that person, or in major cities across the country, but especially in Accra, so that what we usually see, the annual ritual, doesn't pan out, and the measures are put in place and we all see it, that person would have achieved something monumental. Guess what? It's almost as though our leaders were blind to some of those things. I always say that, look, if we do the right things, we probably wouldn't even need to campaign, do much of what, because the people in their faces, I have seen with some policies that have worked, the few ones that have worked, regardless of administration, you would see that the people latch onto it. And it's the people who are basically spreading the word, sending the message out there that this is what is being done. But our leaders simply don't do those things.
So Benjamin, so you ask yourself a lot of questions. Why aren't we able to have the same drive we have when we start projects? It's a natural thing when you're excited about
But you could be making a mistake there. Because the drive that we see from the outset could be a facade.
You're right.
It could be, what do they even call it? So it's a veneer that is being shown, but behind it, look at our road contracts. I was just talking about that in the course of the news review. Do you know how many of our road contracts have been recycled over the years? You ask yourself why. It's because someone is getting a kickback. Someone is buying a V8. Someone is doing this. I said that I know of projects now that I'm getting information on where 3 lanes are being converted to 2 lanes and kickbacks and V8s and all kinds of things in Ghana. The question is why?
Yeah.
So sometimes, yes, the person will tell you, I'm going to deliver a road project. But is it your interest the person is looking out for? Or is it in the end the person's own pockets that he or she wants to line? So I've become inured to some of these things, honestly.
And so many things come to my mind as we talk about the correlation between what we say and how it turns out eventually. Remember, the Greater Accra Regional Minister's very strict directive for tricycles that carry rubbish on our roads.
The Abu-Baidoo, among others.
To cease operations. It was a lot of back and forth. The association said we were not contacted. So, look, the problem is, Benjamin, there is a need. These tricycles are meeting, whether we like it or not.
Right. Just like the Okada.
Yes. We have totally failed in our sanitation collection system. Even those that are using private ones are still struggling. There's somebody I know, the rubbish sits in front of her house, sometimes 3 weeks, and she's paying every month to a private service provider. So we have a problem. So instead of just coming to say, oh, tricycles, get off our roads because you disrupt the flow of traffic and they don't even have mirrors, side mirrors, you know, it's just hazardous. You don't fix the problem, and so guess what? They are back. And this time, it's worse than before because, like I'm saying, you have some of these private service providers not, providing the service as often as they should. So I feel that sometimes we tackle the problem from the branches and not the roots. And so when we seemingly deal with the problem, it springs up again because the root cause hasn't been dealt with.
It's not been eradicated.
So this particular initiative by the Lands Ministry is a laudable one, but this morning is affording us the opportunity to ask questions about previous initiatives that were meant to, benefit the society, help us progress, And I have said this, and it's not the first time. When I came to Accra for school, because my parents were not here, I used to live around Labadi Villas, which is almost the end point of the Burma camp neighborhood. And when you walked to Palmwine Junction, you would hardly see a sachet of water on the floor. And this was in 2010. If you go there now, it's an eyesore. So we are not moving forward, people. It's just a back and forth. We would love to see these initiatives work. So like Benjamin is saying, what will it take us if the kickbacks end? Will we see people focusing more on doing the job than pleasing a certain person so they can keep getting contracts at the expense of the people, at the expense of quality roads, at the expense of sustainable projects? Later on in the show, we'll be talking about this report about corruption in Ghana. And trust me, I don't know, Benjamin. It's sad.
Well, I've just been taking a look at some of the figures we've spent over time. The AMA announcing plans to plant 100,000 trees. When you go back and you look at the figures, I always like facts and figures. In other parts of the world where there's accountability, proper accountability, you would notice that, what is spent, there is some commensurability. But here, like I keep saying, oh, we've done this, we've done that. You can't see it, but they say they've done it. So what do you do? But let's get into this topic of medians when it comes to our roads and get some more scope on it. We are joined by engineer Mahama for some better, understanding of how these drives actually impact us. Engineer Abdullahi Mahama joins the conversation. Engineer, very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning to your viewers.
It's always good to have you. Let me start off by asking you, and we've been a bit pessimistic this morning, but with good reason on the back of some of what we've seen in the past. This wouldn't be the first time we're attempting beautifying our cities or shaping our road medians. But here we are again talking about tree planting. How relevant is this exercise, first of all, in terms of trees? What kinds of trees even should we be looking at? What are the benefits?
Well, I would say a good morning once again to your viewers and listeners as well. If you want to understand the essence of or the benefit of having trees along our highways or some of the roads within the urban centers, I would like a lot of your listeners or your viewers to just drive through the Kwabenya roundabout through the atomic.
Engineer Mahama, I'd appreciate it if you could speak up just a little for us.
Well, okay. I'm saying I just finished my exercise, that's why. I'm saying that if you want to appreciate the benefit of having the trees planted within the medians and the corridors of the highways and other places, right. I would like viewers who have actually used the Kwabenya roundabout to the Kwabenya police station, Allied Science University, that road, especially if you are driving during the day and you get within that stretch, there's that serene and comfort. So if you are about to exit within where they have planted the trees at both sides of the carriageway, you suddenly experience that harsh weather condition again. That's almost 1 kilometer or 1.5 kilometer stretch from the Kwabenya roundabout. It's an example of having trees or the benefit of having trees within the corridors of the
Okay. Engineer, okay. I'm sorry I have to do this. We're also joined by a key personality on this matter. Please, Engineer Mahama, just hold for me. Let me also bring in Samuel Abu-Baidoo. He is Minister for Lands and Natural Resources for Ghana. Mr. Jinapo, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, sir, and a very good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers.
Great.
Listeners and viewers, correct?
You're correct.
This reminds me of when I was a teacher. I still am in different ways, but you can just call me Ben.
Okay.
All right.
My good friend.
Thank you for joining. So let's talk about this latest initiative when it comes to planting trees, this time in our road medians. What brought this up? I mean, is it just part of the tree planting Greening Ghana drive? What led to this?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me, and let me say a very good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. As you know, the president has asked us to pursue an aggressive afforestation and reforestation program. And this is what culminated in the Green Ghana project, and which is also giving birth to the Green Ghana Day. And we are all very familiar with how the Green Ghana Day is been performing over the years. Now, in strong collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government, the Parks and Gardens, we are about to launch the Green Streets Project, the Green Streets Project. The Green Streets Project essentially is to ensure that we plant trees in the medians and avenues of our major capital cities. Now, we will be inaugurating the National Planning Committee, God willing, on coming Monday. And then we'll launch the program. We'll launch the project at the appropriate time, which will give the full contours of the program. But suffice for me to say that any city worth its salt, any city anywhere in the world, which is worth its salt and which is fit for purpose, you will have two main characteristics of a city like that. You normally will always have a water body in the middle of the city. Whether it's a river body or a creation, whatever. I mean, anywhere you go to in the world and the city is really well structured, you have a river body. And then you have canoes and what have you, activities going on in that river body. And you also find that trees are planted in the medians and avenues of the city. I mean, for instance, if you go to Paris, there's one type of tree on all the major avenues and major medians of the city. So is it in London, so is it in New York, Cairo, even Abuja, you know. and to some extent Abidjan. So we want to do a similar thing in Ghana here. And we are beginning with the first phase, which will have us roll out this program in Accra, Takoradi, Kumasi, and Tamale. The 4 major cities of our country will be the beginning of this effort. And then we'll replicate it in other regional capitals, and hopefully in districts. And it may become a standard in our country so that every town or village or city which has roads will have trees in the medians of those streets. Now,
so we're basically targeting every road median at the end of the day.
Well, we're targeting every, but resource constraints and logistical constraints will mean that we will start gradually. But the most important thing is to begin.
Okay.
And the strategy and the plan is that every city will have one unique tree, so that if you come to Accra, it's one type of tree all over. You go to Takoradi, it's one other tree all over. And so if you saw a picture somewhere, you couldn't even tell which city it was. The type of tree in the picture should tell you that this is Takoradi or this is Kumasi. So it's still early days yet, but this is what we intend to do.
That sounds like a very interesting initiative. So you could go to one major city and you'd notice that it's just one specific tree you're seeing there. And that could also be a form of tourism even. But tell me, is there, I've seen different figures. Is there a budget for this in terms of the outlook? How much are we hoping to spend if we're talking Accra?
It's early days yet. I don't think we can get into issues of budget at this stage. I'm now going to inaugurate the planning committee on Monday. The planning committee will then work out all these details. And I should point out to you that as much as practically possible, we want this to be owned by Ghanaians and residents of Ghana, so we don't burden the public exchequer or the treasury. As you know, we already have enough difficulties with our treasury. And apart from everything else, I believe that noble initiatives such as this should be owned by the citizens somehow. And for example, Joy News and Joy FM and AM show and all of that. There's a street. You have a street just by your where you operate from. There's nothing that will stop Joy FM or multimedia from adopting that street,
right?
And getting in touch with the planning committee, getting the costs involved, and the maintenance.
We have been in the thick of the Greening Ghana initiatives, and we have also been ably supporting. But I think it's a call that is also valid.
I commend and congratulate you highly for that. But I'm just citing, I'm giving the example just to indicate how we want to approach this, so that corporate Ghana and other entities, churches, and other organizations in our country will take up streets and own them, and with the parks and gardens giving the technical support and so on and so forth. But we'll roll all of them out in due course.
Right. Hello, Mr. Janapo. Bernice here. So you say you want this to be owned by the people of Ghana. What nature is this project going to take? I'm just reminded of the National Cathedral, where there was a seed money and individuals were asked to contribute. Is this going to be similar? What exactly do you mean when you say the people of Ghana should own it?
Well, the point I'm making essentially is that we need to find clever and intelligent ways of getting things done without necessarily always having to burden the public purse. And, I know, for instance, that during Christmas, the Ministry of Tourism has major streets and parts of Accra runabouts decorated beautifully. And banks and corporate Ghana and other do take them up and brand them, and it's a way of also marketing themselves. And so the point I'm making to you, Bernice, is that it's still early days yet. We are still putting it all together. I don't suggest at all that we will not rely on public funds whatsoever. That's not what I mean. We definitely will. But as much as possible, we should have a package which will result in a public-private partnership in executing this and rolling this out. But as I said already, it's still very much in its embryonic stage. We may have to wait for the planning committee to be put in place. They will then cross the T's and dot the I's and come up with a strategy plan, and then we roll it out and announce it to the country, and we'll take it from there.
Mr. Jinapo, there's an interesting bit, two major things that I want to run by you. The first has to do with the discriminatory treatment of illegal miners who are Ghanaian of African extraction, so to speak, and those who are foreigners, so to speak. There's a latest report on some of these matters. And I'd just like to find out from you, why is that? Because if you look at the trajectory over the years, we've arrested hundreds of Ghanaians, if not thousands, hundreds of Chinese, and I'm singling them out because of the peculiar role they are playing in our country. Yet, when you look at the facts and the figures, and I have them here if I have to quote them, so many Ghanaians have been jailed, serving time, even as I speak, but out of the Chinese, of the hundreds, only 2 have been incarcerated. In fact, years ago, we heard Senior Minister Yao Safo-Mafo talk about the fact that, it is in order not to, impact our relations with China and all of that. I'm sure you remember the Aisha Huang situation. Then we had the president come out and say maybe that wasn't the best thing to have been done at the time, but it was done. But why this discriminatory treatment, especially if you consider the scale of the damage these Chinese and other foreign nationals have caused to our landscape and our river bodies, our water bodies?
Well, so first of all, I take it that you are simply taking advantage of the fact that the minister responsible for that sector to pose this question. Because your producer talked about us talking about Green Street.
Yes, greening, yes, and I admit, I am taking advantage of this. But it is that it falls under your purview, so if you want to...
I was just setting the records that you asked for an interview on Green Street. But anyway, nonetheless, I'll give you an answer. Yes, so you have a point in terms of how we tackle it. As you know, the efforts we are making to clean up the small-scale mining sector throws out different perspectives, different dimensions to the efforts we are making. And all kinds of issues come up, which you have to deal with. And you have the situation where the ministry, which I heard is responsible for the regulation of the sector, but we do so in collaboration with the security agency, and that also has the way that we have to manage it in terms of the tactics and the approach that is adopted. And then when you have people arrested in the process of cleaning up the sector and regularizing the sector, you then have also a situation where you have to prosecute them, and with the prosecution, you are now having to deal with the Attorney General's Department. And when the Attorney General's Department does its work, you are now having to, the ball now shifts into the court of the judiciary, the judges to pass judgment. Those are the imperatives of a democratic society, which you cannot do anything about. So that if you arrest somebody... But
Mr. Jinapo, these are imperatives, legal imperatives that you speak of, but there appears to be clear discrimination when it comes to how the law is applied to us and how it's applied to foreigners.
Chief, you want us to have a discourse so that everybody will appreciate and understand the issues involved. You, very respectfully, you may want me to finish. I was going to address that part of your question as well, but I wanted to give a background so that we appreciate the context in which we are operating. It's not just a question about discrimination and not discrimination, even though I'll answer that as well. So if you allow me, can I proceed to give you an answer? Please. Can I?
Ahead.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, so as I've explained to you and to your listeners, so you have all these multifaceted institutions and angles to dealing with this matter. And it is not peculiar to small-scale mining. It is so for all other sectors, whether it's fuel bunkering or illegal fishing on our seas or the drug trade or whatever. This is the constitutional architecture we have, which you have to go through to secure a conviction and slap a punishment. That is number one. Number two, we realized that the law or the criminal regime was not punitive enough. And therefore, we amended the Minerals and Mining Act 703 through Act 995 to make the punishment for foreigners in particular more punitive. I think we took the punishment, the sentencing up to about 25 years of sentencing for foreigners who are involved in small-scale mining. So that has been done. So is it also that we are even about to amend the law to make sure that the use of floating devices on river bodies called champagne, the ban on them is expanded even more legally. The statistics you put before me, let's assume that those statistics are correct. If those statistics are correct, it is something that we have to interrogate, we have to examine. At what stage is this situation arising, and why is it arising? Is it a case that the judges do not find the evidence sufficient, or the prosecution is not spirited enough, or what is it? We need to examine that. I cannot jump to a conclusion that Ghanaians are discriminated against as opposed to foreigners. For me, as minister responsible for the sector, it doesn't matter whether you're a Ghanaian or you're a foreigner. The law must apply and apply fully.
Mr. Jinapo, so pardon the interjection. Is this something you're willing to get into? Like you're saying, we have to get into it. We have to explore. Is this something you're willing to do?
It's something that we are examining. It's something, not that I will get it. It's something we are looking at. But first of all, we need to satisfy ourselves that these statistics which are being thrown out are correct. And if the statistics are accurate, we now need to ask the relevant questions. What is it? Is it a question of prosecution? Is it a question of lack of evidence? Is it a question of judges not giving the correct judgment or giving the correct sentences? Until you do such a thing, you cannot come to the conclusion that Ghanaians have been discriminated against. I, with the greatest of respect, that kind of conclusion would be premature, if I should say. But suffice for me.
Well, interestingly, we don't have enough time because, like I mentioned, I have the facts and figures with dates and a number of those that I could have given you in terms of numbers of Ghanaians who have been incarcerated, and only 2 Chinese within the period. So maybe it's something that off the camera we could also liaise with you on to feed you with some information, so that that is part of the role of the media, so we can move forward on that.
I'll be very grateful if you furnish me with it. I'll be very grateful.
Right.
And when you do so, we will add that to the examination that we are making. And it is a continuous work in terms of how we clean up the sector and how we get foreigners out of it. And as you say, we don't have time to go into it. There are a gamut of measures we've been rolling out and working on to make sure that foreigners don't participate in the small-scale mining sector of our country. But as I say, I'll be very happy and grateful if you share the information you have with me. We will first of all authenticate it, and then it will form part of the work we're doing here.
I shall liaise with my producer so we facilitate you with that. But very briefly, my final bit to you. Bernice will be coming in shortly on another angle. But craving your indulgence. It's very brief. It's nothing. It's something that you are probably familiar with. So I'm sure you've seen that latest corruption report when it comes to Ghana losing $5 billion. That Shraj instigated report in collaboration with the Ghana Statistical Service and, of course, the UNODC. But here's where it gets interesting. Apart from the different dynamics of people having to pay bribes, which is startling, findings from the survey show that the Ghana Police Service, Immigration Service, and the custom officers of the GRA were the top 3 institutions that received bribes. Guess what? Right next to them is the Lands Commission in number 4, the DVLA following, and then the Passport Agency. How does this wash on you? Because different from other reports, which have always been perception, this is not perception.
Yes. What was the question?
So I'm saying that with the Lands Commission, being in 4th spot, and that is also under your purview, your jurisdiction, how does that strike you in terms of corruption? An entity under your jurisdiction is at number 4.
So the reports, I'll going to make time to study the reports, and then I'll form my own views about it, and then we'll take it from there.
Is that to say you've not seen the report yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, but I'm telling you that the Lands Commission is at number 4. What off the top of your head, what is your reaction to that? You can't possibly be happy, so I know you are not. So what's your reaction?
Well, we need to examine the reports and the question about corruption in our country and in other countries in the world. It's something that we continuously work to tackle, and the gamut of work we are doing in the Lands Commission, the very far-reaching reforms we are putting in place in the Lands Commission, including automation and making sure that human interface is reduced as much as possible. So many things, the digitization of the records of the Lands Commission, systemic and substantive reforms in the sector, which I believe is the surest way, is the panacea for dealing with corruption in any institution in any country in the world. And the digital revolution we're trying to pursue in the Lands Commission and several other places, and as well as the leadership of integrity. The new Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission, Mr. Abu-Baidoo, who is a very professional of astute integrity, and all of those will help. I'm not too sure we have the time to delve into the matter of corruption in our country and state institutions. It's long-standing, endemic, systemic, which requires substantive work and intervention to deal with. And I believe that the government is doing just that, not just with Lands Commission, in almost all aspects of our national life.
I wish, I don't know whether you have the benefit of a television where you are, because you would see that when it comes to the size of bribes, what we've put on our screens currently, the Lands Commission is actually tops in terms of the average bribe size. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because you've not seen the report. But in Ghana, Ghanaian cedis, the Lands Commission is averagely taking...
If I may come in, first of all, your invitation to the interview was not to discuss this report.
Right. No, that's why I craved your indulgence. I totally accept that.
Let me just, it may be helpful if you listen to me. Your producer invited me for us to have a conversation about Green Streets project. That's number one. Number two, I haven't read the report you are talking about. I've seen some headlines relating to some reports. If your producer had said, let's have a conversation about Lands Commission, I would have been prepared to give you all the information. I think your listeners and viewers would have been better off.
Right,
Mr. Jinapor, yeah, we totally understand, and like you said, we craved your indulgence. Okay, so on the final note of our conversation with you, please, have you heard of the incident in BBAD involving a protest by the?
I have.
You've heard that, okay. What have you been briefed about? What briefing have you received?
I think the initial report we have is that there's been two issues. The first one has to do with some chieftaincy rivalry and matters to do with authority who is entitled to perform some rights also. And the second one is also agitation from the youth about employment quota to certain parts of the traditional area. And I've already asked my deputy minister, who is responsible for mines, Honorable George Mekuduka, to quickly intervene and assemble the facts for us to take it up immediately. So yes, we are on top of that.
Right. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Samuel.
Thank you,
Bernice. We'll stay in touch with you.
We're grateful, Mr. Jinapor. And we will be sending you some of that information that you requested.
I'll be very grateful. Please do that. Let's find time and sit down.
Sure. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Conversation.
Sure, sir. Right. So let's go back to Engineer Abdullahi Mahama. We still have him on the line. Thank you so much for waiting, Engineer. We appreciate that. So we've just heard from the minister. It appears that there's still a lot of groundwork being done. But from your experience and expertise, what would you recommend that we do? He's told us that we're going to have different trees in different cities, you know. But what exactly should we be looking at as we begin to plan on this particular project?
Well, I have to just be very snappy on these few things that I've observed over the years. You remember Elwak to Bema Camp Road used to have a lot of trees along the shoulders of the road. And when they were going to do the expansion, in fact, my company was the consultant for that project from the 37 to Trade Fair T Junction. Most of the trees along the road were all cut down because of the expansion of the road. That is one. Secondly, I observed over the years that sometimes when you plant the trees which are wide roots, not the deep-rooted ones, they affect the very foundation of the road. So the parks and gardens this time around should be able to recommend that all the trees that will be planted along the corridors of the highway, especially within the median, should not be wide root trees instead of, but rather the deep rooted. So they have their roots to actually go deeper than going sideways. That uplifts the road furniture. The other one is this. the government has what we call the legislative instrument on the right of way for our highways and urban roads. So I am of the view that once the government has the likelihood of expanding some of the roads, it's only proper that we actually plant those trees at the extreme peripheries of the highways instead of planting the trees within just at the shoulders of the road, and then within a matter of 5 years, when the road is ought to be expanded, we have to come and cut it because trees don't take a year to get to a certain height or effect. That is another one. But you see, Morocco also, Morocco has utilized their median so much that they even plant cash crops within the median and they harvest for export. So it's just a good thing that others have done it in Africa, and we're also trying to do the same. I'm just happy that before the completion of the Nsawam Kwafukrom Apija stretch of the road, the head of the team there had already proposed, even before the government came in with this one, that we should start to plant trees from Nsawam all the way to Apija Junction to just add to the green. You know, science has shown that when you have the green, an acre of a land, which is about 4,000 square meters, when you have trees on them, and then your vehicles are exhuming this carbon dioxide, that acre of land, which is covered with trees, can absorb over 44,000 mileage of the usage of the vehicle, the carbon that vehicle would actually emit out. So it's really important that when this thing comes into fusion, I think it's going to significantly help to improve the global warming. So that's a good thing from government. So I just expect that it will not just sit on the books and drag a long way before they start, because the trees are not going to grow overnight. Like I said, we have to take care of where we are going to plant the trees. The medians where we have some of the concrete have to be intermittently be cracked, opened, and then plant deep-rooted trees, not the wide trees, so that we don't come back in about 2-3 years that is affecting the furniture of the roof, so we have to cut them off. And then, if need be, if you look at the Kumasi Highway, the median is about 12 meters. At a point, they can be doing what Morocco is doing by planting cash crops, which also affects the economy of the country. I think that's. But the most important one is that we have less green belt within the country now.
Right.
You remember what happened to the Achimota Forest Tagada where we are still on. So if we are going to plant, say, every 4 meters on the highway would have one tree, it means about 3 kilometers or 2 kilometers of the road, we must have planted more than 300 to 500 trees, which is like an acre. That is significant. So I think we just have to give thumbs up to the Minister for Western Lands and Natural Resources. Just make sure that we push them to do the needful.
Okay, sorry, engineer. So I don't know if you've used the ridge stretch. You know, let's just say from Paloma to Osu. Something interesting has happened on that stretch around the police headquarters. So the median has been done again, but this time round there's some fencing or barricading. And so I want to believe that's to protect the median and also to prevent hawkers from trampling on the trees and the lawns there. How do we ensure that what we are doing is protected and maintained? Because that's a bigger problem for us here in this part of the world, maintenance.
Well, I think, you see, most of these trees, when they are planted in the initial stages, that's when they need utmost care. After a matter of maybe 5-6 months, when they have gone to a certain stage, the rest more or less depends on nature. You understand? But I think their cordon of the place is to actually prevent multiple crossing of the road. So, you know, those if you actually do what we call modeling in terms of traffic, you see that the number of times that people cross the road also significantly increase the slow pace of vehicles movement, and then generate a backflow of traffic. So it's not only just even to protect the trees within the median, but to just prevent indiscriminate crossing of the road from every junction or every location, anywhere a passenger is standing or any pedestrian is standing to cross the road. So that is what I think we have to. But I think the advisors of the project, especially the parks and gardens, ought to give us the type of trees that can can do well within a matter of half a year, so that we will not need so much money in trying to see to their total growth.
Okay, so it's important that you bring in the parks and gardens at this point, Engineer Mahama. I just have two quick questions for you. In terms of cash crops and the example you've seen, which ones have you seen, and what do you think would be effective in our climate? And how, for example, do you prevent ordinary people from, because, I mean, you know how it is, growing up, would attack the mango trees and the rest. How do you prevent that from the general public? The second bit is, right when you were, addressing the situation about the roots and stuff, Pato says, let the minister know when we're interacting with the minister that the roots of trees will destroy the roads. We have seen it on our roads. Come to Golden Tulip and see. So then, if we're going to look at that angle, you've spoken about the width and all of that. What other dynamics should we consider so we don't end up creating more cost for ourselves?
Yeah, well, that's why I just said that. Some, like you say, when the minister was speaking, he was saying that some of the roads may not have the trees to be planted. Obviously, like I said, we need a proper education or information from those who are specialized in any type of tree to be planted. And I'm saying that we can only do the trees that have a deep root instead of wide roots, whichever way it is. If it's going to be wide root and it's a beautiful one that we think we need, we cannot plant them in the median because we need to know the area that the root would cover. Like I'm saying, there are some medians we have on our highways. The higher or the more you have land around the corridors of the road, the more the median. You see, when you look at the Ayimensa or Yerefa stretch, we don't have any median. We have a new Jesse barrier, that's the concrete in the middle, to actually separate the two carriageways. It's because of lack of availability of land, more land there. When you get from Amasaman, going towards Instawam to down bypass to Apeja Junction, we have luxury of land. So in the design, a 12-meter, 6-meter each at both approaches had been added with the median and the gutter and the drain in the middle. That one, if you have an information from the Parks and Gardens that a certain type of tree will be so beneficial, but it cannot go, the root cannot go beyond 6 meters in area in the next 50 years, then that's good because even before the 50th year, the road might have gone bad. And then when you are doing the redesign of the road, you have factored all those into it. And then you spoke about how to protect. Morocco has some areas they have. I've forgotten the type of fruit that I saw, but they have like orange and it's like cashew in their, and that they actually harvest. It's a well-planned program organized by the government, and then they harvest the cash crop and they import and they use some in the country. So I'm just saying that when it comes to the construction or how to do the work, we will take over that one. But when it comes to the advice of the type of trees that we need to use, I think the Parks and Gardens will play a major role in that effect.
Right, Engineer, I think we'd end it here with you. Thank you so much for making time to be with us. Engineer Abdullahi Mahama is a road consultant, sharing his thoughts on what we should be looking at this particular project that government seeks to initiate. We were told that the planning committee will be set up on Monday, Benjamin. And so when that is done, we'll get more info on the nature of this project and how it will be executed.
But let's also have Daryl Bosu of Arusha, Ghana. He joins the conversation. Daryl, a very good morning to you. Hello, Daryl. All right, so we'll work the connection. Hello, Daryl. Can you hear me, Daryl?
Hello, Benjamin. Yes, Benjamin, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I was struggling a
Sorry.
while. Right.
Yeah, sorry I didn't get,
Right. So I was just trying to find out from you, now that we know about these road medians and tree planting, now a tree planting exercise, a lot of concerns have been raised. I don't know whether you followed the conversation we just had, but There's talk of maybe following the Moroccan example. Are you going to do cash crops, oranges, cashew, where they harvest and sell? Are you going to do other trees just for beautification? Also considering the fact that some of them may, produce roots that may impact our roads and all of that. What do you think of the entire project? We haven't put cost or figures to it yet when we spoke to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. What do you make of the project generally? And what would be your proposal as an environmentally friendly group?
Well, Benjamin, thank you very much and good morning to you and to your team. I read about this development last night, and I must say I'm very surprised, and I am actually shocked that despite the fact that we have a Green Ghana project, we think it convenient to exclude actions or tree planting activities within the median of our roads. I don't understand it. If you have looked at the summary of the strategy for the Green Ghana agenda for 2022, the planting of trees in the median is included. I only see this as another waste of resources. I'm not even going to talk about whether we are going to plant cash crops or fruit for us to harvest or not. The whole idea is wrong. It's a duplication of Green Ghana idea, and the ministry should quickly scrap it because it is not worth it. Now let's think about this. We have Green Ghana agenda. There's a committee already sitting on this, thinking about it. And when we were doing the planting, we brought people from immigration, people from prisons, the police, everyone. So why is it different that planting trees in the median will need another committee and will need a whole project on its own?
Does this smack?
It's just unimaginable.
Does this smack of
It's
another?
just unimaginable. And
does this smack of another enterprise to maybe get jobs for some people, boys and girls, or maybe to funnel state resources into certain pockets?
As it is. It is just an opportunistic endeavor. Government is just finding ways, and I think the minister really had nothing to say to us. So he just brought that.
But you do admit, Daryl, you do admit that this is a good initiative because you mentioned that they should have fed it into the Green Ghana discussion. So it is a good thing. But let's say on hindsight, the team... hold on, Daryl.
If it is duplication. Yes.
Right. I admit, per what you're saying. But let's say the team on hindsight says, we started with this, but come to think of it, we should have added this. Let us do it as a separate thing. Is that wrong?
No. I think it's very wrong. You guys shouldn't accept that. It's just semantics, and you should really query it. Now, the thing is that when you say Green Ghana agenda, it's supposed to be an inclusive program. You take our watershed, you take our forest, you take our streets. Everywhere there's opportunity to plant trees, you plant trees. Now, already what the ministry could have done was to get in touch with the Ministry of Roads and Highways, who are constantly constructing new roads, and even before they do that, they destroy a lot of trees. Why don't we have a system where the ministry already engineers the road, integrating all the trees that already existed in these areas? For us to have Green Ghana and to go and set up another green street project, I think it's duplication, it's not needed, and the ministry should quickly scrap it. It's just a waste of resources. Green Ghana already, we're struggling with it. How much resource, how much of taxpayers' money is going to that? They're going to spend another money to set up a new committee. It's just unconscionable. And I think that we shouldn't allow this to happen.
How about the Green Ghana project itself, the initiative? How would you assess it so far, the millions of trees that we've planted in terms of accountability, before my colleague Bernice comes in? Are you with us, Daryl?
And I missed you on that. I'm getting...
So I was saying, moving away from the bit about the street media.
Say that again. Sorry, I missed you.
Yes, I am saying that the Green Ghana initiative itself, the millions of trees we've planted, and no proper assessment in terms of how many have survived. We were told 80 to 85% by the president, but I've not seen any real statistic to back that. And in terms of cost, how would you assess Green Ghana as of now? I think we're struggling with a connection to Daryl. But Bernice, maybe you might have better luck than I have had.
Let me try. Hello, Daryl. No, the lines aren't discriminatory.
No, the lines are actually discriminating this morning. They are discriminating against
all right,
Daryl.
Yeah,
but important point he makes there, that
exactly.
it's a duplication of it, and if we had an agenda, I mean, you cannot help but to agree with him to some extent.
Well, there was a good follow-up question you asked him, because he did mention that the Green Ghana project itself has some issues. I'm not quoting you verbatim, but that's what he sought to communicate. So it's a good follow-up question you asked him. Just unfortunately, the lines aren't helping us this morning. But Daryl is with Arusha Ghana, and they've been doing some good work. I right. remember their campaign against the invasion of the Etiwa forest for bauxite mining, and they did very well. You can follow them. They do a lot of great work when it comes to conservation.
I also want to highlight what they did for the fight against killing pangolins, the ant eaters.
Yes.
And you know, and that feeds into the Marburg virus conversation. All of these bushmeat, so to speak, people kill pangolins claiming their scales are medicinal and all
not
kinds
only
of
that,
things.
they're selling them to Chinese for a lot of money. They pay
you know, I try not to single out or stereotype, but
no, but that's what
the Chinese are.
You're not saying. You're just reporting
everywhere on these matters, eh?
Yes, yes. I saw a story. Is it in Malaysia? One of the places where elephant tusks and pangolin skins and so many other things were being exported, and they were impounded. So, like Benjamin is saying, we need to be extra careful when it comes to these things. Well, you're watching the AM show with Benjamin and I. When we come back, we'll be having that conversation on that corruption report by the SRAJ and Ghana Statistical Service and the UN agency. And we've just highlighted a few points for you in that conversation with Samuel Abujinapo, but we'll be delving deeper when we come back. Do stay.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We're talking corruption now, and it's not about perception, it's about the reality. Over 15,000 people in that latest survey by SRAJ, the Ghana Statistical Service, and the UNODC. So what are the revelations? Let's start with this report that we put together. Bernice, would you like to give us some of the details?
Yes, I will. So we start on the note of prevalence of bribery, total and by level of urbanization. So 83.8% of the adult population had at least one contact with a public official, okay? And so that's 80.5% rural areas, 86.1% urban areas. So this is interesting. Prevalence of bribery, and it's color-coded, okay? So when you see the really dark mustard, 30 to 55.
Which means there's a higher prevalence rate there. Exactly. In fact, the highest according to this chart.
Exactly. And then the one after that is 28 to 30. Then you have 90 to 28. And the very light one, 10 to 19. And that's within the Bono East and Savannah regions. So let's focus on the regions with the highest prevalence: Northeast, Bono Ahafo, Western North, Western, and Greater Accra. I would have been surprised.
No surprises about the Greater Accra region.
Yes, I would have been really surprised.
Especially because of the concentration of a lot of our, public institutions.
Definitely. So, so let's move on to the next one. The others, Eastern Ashanti, well, they're in the middle there. So,
but there's a bit of a surprise. If we could go back to the previous slide just briefly, the Ashanti region. I think that is 28 to 30. Well, it's still high, but I thought it would be much closer to...
It's not 28 to 30. It's actually 19 to 28.
That's what I'm reflecting on, whether it's 19 to 28 or 28 to 30. But I found that interesting because of, they are the next biggest in terms of
terms of
well,
administration?
the city, Kumasi, is our next biggest city, and then in terms of administration and all of that. So I found that to be surprising, which is quite a positive for the Ashanti region.
Yes, it is.
On to the next one now.
So the other interesting point has to do with the age
grouping.
Yes. So age 25 to 34 are the age group most likely to paying bribes.
Are you surprised?
25 to 34, I'm not surprised.
This is the active group. A lot of people in this age group would be looking for jobs, would be trying to get around the system to get maybe a Ghana card or something. Like, people around this age group are active, and I'm not surprised they are the ones paying, most likely to pay bribes.
Are thinking alike.
Or maybe even get into an institution.
So the lowest figure has to do with 65 plus. By then you're on retirement, you're sitting at home cooling off. The engagement between such people and public officials is very minimized, so it's not surprising at all. And then you have the 18s to 24, 23 to 9%, 35 to 49, 28.9%, and 50 to 64, 24.2%. Okay. People with this is where it gets really interesting, Benjamin. People with the highest level of education are 1.7 times more likely to pay bribes than people with no formal education. It also comes down to interaction, okay?
Yeah.
So you're talking about people who are interacting with the Lands Commission, who are interacting with the police, who are interacting with public servants,
with the GRA.
So you'd usually expect that such persons are educated. And so the figures are interesting there, but it breaks it down further, where 23.3% no formal education, in terms of percentage of people likely to pay a bribe. Primary education, 24.2%. Secondary education, 27.4%. Post-secondary non-tertiary education, 27.4%. And tertiary education, 4.6%. And we've explained why this possibly reflects this way.
Now, it's interesting, right? We're looking at the average number of bribes paid in 2021. And it's startling. More than 17.4 million bribes were paid in 2021. And of course, the urban areas 4.8, with the rural areas paying 5.4. What I found interesting here was the bit about the fact that in the rural areas, there's even more in terms of the quantum than in the urban areas. But if you also consider that we have more rural areas than urban centers, then it also makes sense. So it means that actually the urban areas, though not that concentrated, but because you have a concentration of industry and all of that and MMDAs and all, but they've still come close to the urban areas, which are many more in terms of the representativeness, if you like.
All right, so there's an interesting, let's go back, So of those people who reported that they had paid a bribe in 2021, 29.3% reported having done so only once, whereas 17.6% reported paying more than 10 bribes in the 12 months prior to the survey. And Benjamin, we've had this conversation before here, where we said that it is increasingly becoming difficult for people who want to do the right thing to survive in this country. It's interesting.
I was having a discussion with our sound engineer, and he made mention of the fact that, look, now if you do the right thing, you are the odd one. You are the odd one. You are the one who stands out for the wrong reasons because you're doing, the usual talk among even boys, we are John, oh, you didn't do that, you didn't take advantage of the situation. And it doesn't work for us.
Okay, so thankfully we have two guests to help us digest this particular latest report we are discussing here. Martin Pebu is a lawyer and Edem Sinanu is an anti-graft campaigner. Let's start with Mr. Akakpo. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, lawyer, and great to have you here. So, I mean, this time, Benjamin mentioned earlier in the show, this goes beyond perception to real experiences, people telling us the kind of, the number of times they've paid bribes, the amounts they've had to give. Interesting dynamics you're picking up. So, for example, you see the Greater Accra region and other regions, on the map, having high numbers when it comes to payment of bribe. I don't know if you've seen this particular report, but what's your initial reading of it?
Yeah, so Bernice, good morning. Yeah, I've seen the report. As far as I can read, I'm rushing into court, so obviously I didn't finish reading the over 100 pages. But what I get out of what I've read is that, look, it's just further confirmation, okay, that corruption is really such a huge problem, and that's putting it very mildly. In actual fact, I belong to the school of thought that it is our biggest problem as a nation. Even before this, the Auditor General's report says that between 2016 and 2020, we lost 48 billion to corruption. Bernice, 48 billion. If we were to convert 48 billion to the old currency, we'll be getting into a trillions of Ghana cedis. So for those who are used to the old currency, so over a trillion, 48 billion, if you convert it to the old, you get a trillion. Okay, so the point is that this report just adds on. People who say corruption is a perception, no, don't live in Ghana. It's always been a problem from Kwame Nkrumah's day to today, except that it's such a shame that we are not able to fight it. That's putting it mildly.
But why aren't we able to fight it?
Because we have weak leaders. That's the main problem. I think, you see, it's true that we have cultural issues with corruption. Okay, yes, it's embedded in our culture. People will tell you when you go to the chief's palace, don't go empty-handed and all that. They say that is what has fed into what we are suffering. But with hindsight, I believe it's leadership. Leadership. They say a fish rots from its head. So where the head itself is rotten, and so I'm quickly coming to the point that yesterday, look, I heard lay people on radio make a certain point, and I buy into it. They said the capital of corruption is the Jubilee House. So this report should be thrown into the dustbin. The capital of corruption is the Jubilee House. That's where real corruption, the big, the millions of dollars, that's where it happens. That is where all the big people are, and that is where they do the biggest deals. So when you are talking about petty corruption, not to undermine it, but it's just that the police, the 10 cities here, 20 cities here, immigration and the rest, it's a joke. The millions of dollars is at Jubilee House. Bernice, I'm sure you know this story that we've been following for the past 1 month. Northern Development Authority.
Yes.
Dr. Namzoya finds that they are about to, the current CEO and his people are allowing about 5.2 million to be paid, contrary to signed contracts. He blows a whistle in January of this year, and we are in July. The presidency hasn't taken any step. The president doesn't want to know about it. He doesn't care. The chief of staff, to whom the letter was addressed, equally doesn't care. Napaga Tia Suleimana, who is the coordinator of the special initiatives, she was copied in the letter. She doesn't care. The chief director at Jubilee House also signed the 5.2 million requisition for 5.2 million to be paid, contrary to their contract. They all don't care. So you see that...
does it warrant, though, Mr. Akakpo, does it warrant what you're saying, this whole-scale indictment of the executive? Because you say you buy into that rhetoric that the Jubilee House is the seat or house of corruption. Do these justify making that point? Because we've also seen initiatives combating corruption. So can you make such a blanket statement?
Oh, that's what do you call it? is lip service. The initiatives are lip service, just to, divert attention. Let's come back. Look, Mr. Akakpo, the big contracts, to get a big contract, multi-million-dollar contract, Mr. Akakpo, it doesn't work in Ghana. You can't just sit in your office, go and bid and get a multi-million-dollar contract. Who bond up? Who tells you that's how contracts are done? You need to lobby. Sometimes you lobby up to the presidency, and I'm saying so on authority. Mr. Akakpo, I am saying so on authority. You think the big contracts, $100 million contract, even 50 million, some even as low as 5 million, 10 million. You need to go lobby there. That is the citadel of corruption, please. There's no argument about that. Anybody who wants, as I told you, I'm going to court. We can have a full debate. Maybe you can prepare, say that, okay, in 2 weeks, let's have a debate on corruption. Let's gather all the evidence and come. Hey, Mr. Akakpo, have you forgotten the Ameri deal? Ejaku was going to sign this, and he advised the president to pay $850 million. We're going to sign a contract for $850 million. When, thankfully, somebody leaked it, what did the president say? Because they were caught pants down, then he said, oh, they were ill-advised. He was wrongly advised. Well, is that not Jubilee House? Had not been for the whistleblower, $850 million, that's how much we're going to pay. Didn't it take a whistleblower to bring it out? Okay. And then you have the Auditor General, Domlevo, where he came, his first major achievement. Public servants, and there were people also from Jubilee House involved. We're going to steal $1 billion. Even the president himself acknowledged it. Public servants, some of them are Jubilee House involved. We're going to steal $1 billion. It took Domlevo to intervene, and he caught them. So we can go on and on and on. There are other examples. And I've told you currently, 6 months, we have shown the president evidence that, look, people are about to take about $5 million illegally out of the public purse. The president said, oh, please, I'll have nothing to do with it. I don't care about your public purse. So, Mr. Akakpo, we are justified, please.
Lawyer, so we have a big situation on our hands. I remember about a year or two ago, the NCCE started an initiative to go into schools to try and build values in the younger generation, so that at least if the older generation don't want to really solve the problem, by instilling certain values in the younger generation, we can correct the wrongs. Just a week ago, we know that there was a paper cancelled in the School of Law due to leakage. People go to take exams in the medical school, there's leakage. It appears that we are a valueless society and we are driving ourselves into a ditch. Who then can help us? How can we save ourselves? The leaders aren't helping. The people themselves do not have any values to help us get out of this mess. It appears you're just going with the wind.
Yes, I like that. The last one, just going with the wind. But Bernice, the saving grace is that, like you guys are doing now, I see there's a new resolve by our society to fight this canker, just like you're doing now. You see that, I'm sure if we check, within the last 1 month, this topic would have been discussed before, all right? Meaning, within the last 1 month, you did something like that, and today it's back on the front burner, front and center, right? So I am optimistic that the way young people are interested in fighting this, you see Edem Senanu is coming, and sometimes when I listen to Edem, I'm like, God, when are we going to give people like Edem the opportunity to control the affairs of this country? Because I listen to Edem and I'm like, oh, this man, because you see, sometimes, yes, somebody will tell you that talk is cheap, but other times you listen to some people and you're like, no, this one will do it. So young people need to come together. Let's form more fan clubs, anti-corruption, like Edem is done, and so on and so forth. Then let's begin to give more time to this. Like I've told the story about the NBA, how the president is gone to sleep, chief of staff to whom even the letter was expressly addressed, she's gone to sleep. Then Fremo Oseo Pare, how can she do that? And she's still in office, where we expect that she should have gone by now, she should have resigned, the president should have resigned, Baumia too should have resigned, and they are in office. So I think that let's gather more young people to join in the fight. Because listen, if we were to keep quiet, it will get worse. If we were to keep quiet, it will get worse.
But lawyer, hasn't that been our story? Sorry to interject. I mean, I have been doing this job sitting here for at least 4 to 5 years. And we've been talking about this, not to demean the efforts that you and other persons have put in dealing with the fight against corruption. We've been talking a lot about this, but it appears to be getting worse by the day. And that's why I'm saying, what can save us? What can we do? We read about other countries where there are really drastic penalties for persons caught in corruption, like being killed. You know, I mean, that's extreme. But you ask yourself, at this point of the life of this country, what can save us? We've tried talking, we've tried education, we even have laws, but we are still here.
Yes, Bernice, yes, but we have to continue talking. Everything starts with a conversation, then we get into action. So like I said, let the young people, like you've done. So maybe, you know, the last time Captain Smart led a demonstration on anti-corruption, right? Okay, so this is 2022. Let's do one. Let's organize one in the next month. And good. You know, about 2 weeks ago, the CSOs came together. CDD, Imani, Occupy Ghana, myself, Samson Ladi Ayenede, Lawyer Akutuampa, Professor Kakari, and so on and so forth. So the CSOs have come together to fight this problem, corruption, and other ones. So maybe you guys should join in. Radio, I think maybe Joy FM, are you already part? Well, it appears so. So we will be rolling out more programs. We'll be rolling out more because, Bernice, like you said, other places, people were killed. In Ghana, we also killed, yet corruption hasn't disappeared. So killing is no longer a solution. Okay, you remember when Tike came? Let the blood flow. Didn't he kill how many? 3 former heads of state and all that? Okay, so we've tried the killing and it didn't solve it, though it brought it down. So I'm all for us continuing the fight. And then it's good. I wanted to even reach out to Raymond Akpa, but since we are doing this, let me bring this in now. Bernice, I think it will help our society a lot if you guys will do a documentary on the people who have been convicted so far for corruption and causing financial loss, especially, you know, the first, during the Rawlings regime, when he was leaving, when Kufuor came into office, you know, Minister of Finance, Kwame Pepra, Minister of Agriculture, Ibrahim Madam, Payanki, and another person, right? They were convicted. Recently, remember Abu-Baidoo, and so on and so forth. You see what Adamu Sakande did. Maybe we'll just widen it to politicians who have done ill and were jailed, convicted for their crimes. Let's do a documentary on that, and then you play it from time to time. Because trust me, Bernice, you'll be surprised that perhaps what I just stated today, that'll be the first time that some millennials would have heard about it. Because maybe at the time Ibrahim Adam and co were convicted, certainly they were too young, so they don't know. So let's do a documentary on all these convictions. Let's do it. Let's do it because it also helps in the education. And then let's just continue the fight.
So finally from me, lawyer, on this, there are those who say that you can't win the fight against corruption until you have a holistic approach to total well-being. So some justify the action by police officers to say, look, their salary is very meager, okay? So some of them use it as an opportunity to support their very meager salaries. There are those who suggest that, look, there are no jobs, so people must pay their way into the very little space that we have. How do you think we should tackle these contributors to corruption so that we don't focus on the branches of the problem and leave the root cause?
Okay. Yes, so the from what you said, it's holistic. I think actually we are currently doing the holistic approach because as you and I are talking right now, there are even more, what do you call it, public officers in court now. being prosecuted. Oh, we even forgot. Do you remember about a year and a half ago, the NCA matter? That's Tetevi, Alaji Limuna, Eko were also convicted. The NCA causing financial loss. The NCA case, right? So let the prosecutions continue. Right now, you and I are involved in educating the public, okay? And that's another part. Then you look at issues of ghost names. Certain initiatives have been rolled out. So we are doing it, but it appears we don't, is the education that's rather not be enough.
What about
and also
looking at,
perhaps we should...
Sorry, lawyer, what about looking at what people earn as monthly income? What about looking at tackling the issue of job availability, so you don't have a situation where people have to pay their way into job office, or people have to justify what the police do by saying, but you don't even pay them a lot, and there's so much happening in the country and they need to sort themselves out. So if they catch somebody doing the wrong thing, they'll just say, look, the legal system is even stressful. Give me something and let me let you go. Okay, great. Let's do the police and the rest. I think we should stop this thing that they are not well paid. Bernice, nobody is well paid in Ghana. So it's not an excuse. Because if we were to say that everybody should be paid what he really deserves, then there will be no money to pay anybody. So please, the police, if you mention the police as an example, at least they are earning a living. Bernice, you know the number of graduates, people who want to work and they are not getting work. So we are coming to the second leg, which is unemployment. So if you look at the millions who are ready to work for the pay that some people are saying is not sufficient, please, we can't continue saying that people have not been well paid. So it's a reason for them to do this involved in corruption. And let me quickly mention this. I heard when this report came out, I heard some radio stations making the same point, and they are referring to just public officers' salaries. They don't know their allowances. They don't know the allowances that add up. So please, before anybody comes to say the public officer is not well paid, be sure you know, apart from his salary, all the allowances. And I want to repeat with all the energy I can muster, all the allowances. Be sure you know that before you come and sit and just mention the person's basic pay and say that, oh, then that means that it's not well paid. So let me be specific. Somebody mentioned that in the military, the highest person is paid 4,000 something. Let's say it's not more than 5,000. And he was talking about only basic. He hasn't talked about allowances. So please, let's stop this misleading citizens. Yes, we all accept. Me too, as a lawyer who says I'm well paid. But we are all managing. We are all managing. So that's not an excuse. Let's come to the second one. Yes, unemployment is such a huge problem. You know, because of that. So yesterday when I joined Arise Ghana at the public forum, I called on the president to resign here in Baumia because their production, we're going to produce so much that we don't need to tax. They came in and they are taxing and taxing and even taxing this money in our packets, e-levy. I say, Tisikan, so come there. Say, na Sikana no can you Sika away your bottom.
Mr. Kwebu.
Money in our packets already. Money we've already paid taxes on is what is being double taxed. So, all right. So I need to enter court.
All right. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you so much for making time to join us. That was Martin Kwebu, the ending rather interesting note.
I think they said
Yetisikaso,
but they meant to tax the money in our pockets. The one already. Okay, let's
interesting.
Let's bring in Adam Senanu, an anti-grabs campaigner. Adam, you've been very patient. We had to do this to allow lawyer Kwebu to also get to court. But thank you for being so patient with us. It's interesting, on the back of our engagement yesterday for that IMF program and why we keep ending up, going for that facility, for example, the bit about corruption. Now, what is your general overview of this latest report, considering that in 2014, we came up with our National Anti-Corruption Action Plan? It appears the action is not actioning.
I think to put it into context, the 5 billion figure, it hits me. I mean, it's part of the fact that this is nothing new. We know there is corruption going on.
I mean, that is more than what we are hoping to get from the e-levy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It hits you. I mean, as research work done with the Ghana Statistical Service, where we talk about actuals, we've always said that, look, perception-based indexes give you a very strong indication based on the methodology of what is going on. But now we have the facts, and the facts say that as much as 5 billion. It tells you that this is widespread. It tells you that we need to look at ourselves more seriously as a nation, and we probably shouldn't be using and focusing on one or two key ways of addressing this, but much more holistic in thinking through how do we nab this. And I think that we probably need to go a little more below the surface. Why are Ghanaians not reporting? What can we do to make sure that there's protection for whistleblowers and witness protection is more effective? What can we do to speed up prosecution so that this is truly high risk, low gain? Because at the moment it's low risk, high gain. And I think that we have the brains to think a little more creatively to get solutions that work. I heard Bernice, I could hear her cry, so to speak, that look, doesn't look like anything is changing. It's been 4 years sitting at this. I think it's also good to put it into context. If you look at the countries that have made progress in terms of democracy, they had about 200 years of building that, I don't want to call it animal, but that system for it to work for them. And perhaps we need to juxtapose where we are now as a country with other countries and what they went through to get to the point where they have systems that work. We say that the price of a thriving democracy is eternal vigilance by the citizens. By that, there must always be a continuous demand. And so those of us who are here and understand what is going wrong need to hold hands. We need not to despair. We continue to think and see what we can do much more concretely to get the results that this nation needs. And those would be my preliminary remarks.
I want to avert your attention to page 12. I know you've taken some look at the report. It's a pretty lengthy report. It will take time to digest, over 100 pages, but I'll pick and choose between the pages for relevant content. When you look at page 12, contact rate by educational attainment, I'll link that to the actuals of those who made payments, 2021. So this just reflects the contact rate referring to the number of adult Ghanaians who had at least one contact with a public official. No formal education stands at 79.8%. And you would think that is high, but guess what? Primary education, 84.2%. Secondary education, 84.3%. Post-secondary non-tertiary education, 89.6%, and then tertiary education, 91.6%. It gets higher as they climb the educational plane. And that is also reflected when you go to this other slide, and that one is the next one, that is page 16 of the report. That one reflects, again, you would see a gradual incremental value. 23.3% for those with no formal education, 24.2% for those with primary education, 27.4% secondary, post-secondary 27.4%, and tertiary 40.6%. You know what this tells me? The better educated our people are getting, we're basically breeding educated criminals in the country. And how does that reflect, Edem Senanu? I'm giving you my final bit here. Because again, when you look at the average bribe sizes, and you look at our institutions, you would see that where we are putting the most educated people is where corruption is happening the most. On top, in terms of figures they give out, Lands Commission. Next, our judges and magistrates and prosecutors. Next, the Ghana Immigration Service. Next, elected local government representatives. Follow that with MMDAs, and the list goes on and on. The educated class has this country in a chokehold in terms of corruption. How do you figure?
Well, I mean, it's a fair description based on the facts that have been thrown out by the report. I think that what you are seeing is an educated group who think that there is no other option but to follow the trend. And so it's like this is the norm. The question is, are there options that they could have explored or exploited, and that we could then say, therefore, we should not be seeing this trend? And that is why I'm saying, I think we need to think some more about where we find ourselves and what we can do differently. So, yes, the trend shows that as you go up the educational ladder, one appears to be paying more. It probably also is simply to say, not necessarily because sometimes you need to do an analysis of the factors contributing to this. It could also simply be the fact that at the lower level, what they need to engage with public services and similar services for are much less than as you go up the ladder. So the contributory factors to the interpretation would be such that one cannot say that it simply is because they have more education. It could simply be because those who climb the ladder have more need of services that are within the public domain, and therefore the level of engagement therefore increases as you go up the ladder. Those with less formal education probably are not looking at needs that have services of a public nature. Having said that, I think it is also important that we therefore target those people. The data provides opportunity. It means, look, we can identify the constituency that is engaged most in this. How do we help them to rethink what is going on? How do we make it more high risk, less gain, more less gain? How do we provide systems where they know that, look, I can still get the result without having to make this payment? And I think that's the fundamental issue. People want to get results, and they want to get it timely. If they think that the system will not deliver those results without making this payment, and they're in a hurry, they are bound to begin to engage in things that ordinarily they wouldn't do if the systems work. So how do we get our systems to work? How do we get people their results? We probably as a society need to think some more about that. And leadership is key. So if we can identify that it's people going to the police or going to the DVLA, or what is the service that people need? What are the payments they're having to make for what services? How do we reduce the human factor and increase the interface where this can be done without money having to,
exchange hands?
Think more critically. I mean, the jurisdictions where this is being managed and minimized, they have done the thinking and they've put in the systems.
And we just have to copy and adapt to our situation. I would ask for your concluding thoughts on what you think that, beyond what you said, what do you think we could do? But I found this of interest. I think it's page 27 of the report. It feeds into what we've already discussed. So look, when it comes to the contact rate by type of public officials in 2021, at the bottom, you have the National Intelligence Bureau, formerly the BNI. I'm not surprised. If you go on that trajectory and then you get caught, it could mean something else. Then the embassy and consulate officers, 0.5%. Interestingly, prison officials, 0.7%. They are from the bottom in that order. But then look at the top. In terms of contact rate, you know how our system is, no bed syndrome. Or maybe you need a pint of blood, you can't get it. You want to get into some academic institution or maybe something else related. You want your grades taken care of. And then utilities, people are cutting corners. But look at them. Doctors, nurses, and midwives, in terms of contact rate, 60.2%. Teachers, lecturers, or professors, 51.3%. Public utility officials, think ECG, think Ghana Water Company, think of the other utility providers, 43.2%. I found this rather interesting. Maybe your quick reflections on that as you sum up as well with the way forward.
Well, I think it is useful to note that even though the contact rate by type of public officer, you had doctors, nurses, and midwives at the top, teachers, And yet in the corruption rating, I think the police were at the top.
Yes, in fact, the prevalence, when it comes to the real prevalence, which is page 28, the real prevalence, police officers are on top with 53.2%, followed by immigration service officers, 37.4%, GRA customs officers, 33.6%. So year in, year out, we are talking about, oh, we are not meeting our revenue targets, though in recent years we've overshot them, but no surprise then why we are not meeting them, because some people there are cutting corners.
Yeah, so I think that the data provides us enough information. First of all, it tells you that in spite of the greater contact that doctors, nurses, midwives have with people, they are not the ones demanding as much money. There's some credit there. On the other hand, it tells you that those who have less contact at 14.9 are demanding more. I think that it allows us for, look, if you had enough investigators, you had a fast-track court, you have systems in place, you start at the top of those who are engaged as far as this report is concerned in compelling people to pay bribes, etc., and go on a campaign. I mean, that is what leadership is about. So if government wanted to give a robust response to this, use this data to inform where do we suddenly crack them, put in place systems, grab people, sanction them, demonstrate that we're going to do this sector by sector, we're going to use this report, we can even do it simultaneously across sectors. Let's have some robust responses. That is what leadership is about. Leadership is cost, everything else is effect. If we have good leadership, we can minimize the impact of corruption on the public purse and get much more development for it. And if we look at the issue of, Bernice raised this and I thought it's substantive. Look, we have about 30% of the working population being taxed to take care of the needs of this nation.
Right.
Domestic revenue mobilization must be expanded. The tax net must be expanded. What it will do is you have much more money. You reduce the tax levels on individuals. They have more disposable income. And we'll have a situation where many more people can take care of themselves and families and not be so inclined to be bribed or paying bribes, etc. So it's still leadership. All the issues we look at, we need to demand much more from our government. And I like the way Martin went about it. No bars held back, just shut at it. We are calling on our presidency. Look, the solutions are there. If we are listening, I think that there are things we can do even now so that we can get some results.
Thank you so much, Adam, for joining the conversation, and keep it up, the drive against graft in our society. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me. So
we're joined by Martin Kpebu, a lawyer, and Adam Senanu, an anti-graft campaigner, on that. But stay with us. Tomorrow is D-Day as we start with the first clinic of the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. Of course, Joy News in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and the Planned Cities Extension Project from Cities and Habitats will make home ownership easy peasy. This year's fair is under the theme Home Ownership, where you live matters. At the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, we've got you covered with all your needs from mortgages, personal loans, consumer financing, land acquisition, security, and many more. So join us at the Achimota Retail Center for the first clinic from tomorrow, the 22nd of July, to Sunday, the 24th of July, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. There will be exciting activities, including webinars, giveaways, and many more. For inquiries, please call us on 054 690 8179 or 054 011 0389. The EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the Planned City Extension Project from Cities and Habitats, Rent to Own. It's also sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Construction Limited, where quality meets value, Virtual Security Africa, Complete Security Solutions, Superlock Technologies Limited, you deserve the best, DBS Industries Limited, we truly are your roof experts, Duraplast Limited, where Duraplast goes, water flows, and Gold Key Properties, building prestige since 1997. EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, where you live matters, and we'll be talking about that up next on the show.
Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. It's now time to have our discussion on the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. And to help me in that discussion today, I've got Kelvin Muzaya. He's Sales and Customs Services Manager at DBS Industries. And Nanaya Japong, she's Head of Consumer Marketing, rather, at EcoBank. Grateful that you could join us. And you know that EcoBank is our headline sponsor, so permit me, let me start with Madam. Okay, good to have you here. When it comes to the issue of home acquisition, one thing that we haven't explored a lot in this part of the world is mortgages. You know, you speak to friends, relatives outside the country, and they live in very good homes, but they've not paid upfront for it. I know EcoBank has some offers, mortgages available. Do you see people coming? Is there a growing interest in that aspect of home financing?
Well, let me say thank you for having us. EcoBank is always happy to be part of the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair. And the question you asked talks about, mortgages. In Ghana, it's a bit difficult to acquire a mortgage, but EcoBank has made it such that it's very simple now. Anytime you want to take a mortgage, you pick a house you want. We do a calculation based on your salary, and then based on that, we offer 80% of that. You make a payment of 20%, and then we are good to go. We realized that it's sometimes difficult to come up with the 20% contribution. So we came up with a different package that says, assign your Provident Fund to us, and then we'll offer 100% financing for you. So this is actually to answer the question that there's a great interest in mortgages now. People want to own their own homes. People want to take time to make these payments because it's quite difficult to come up with a huge sum of amount to make the purchase. So even with that, over time, we've moved from doing a 10-year mortgage to 20 years, just to give you, to give you that long time frame to make the payment.
That is interesting. I mean, it doesn't get any better, does it? I'm actually surprised to hear that because, so do you get people complying? Is there compliance when it comes to the payments, you know, where you have to make your money back as a bank?
Well, we do our background checks. We ensure that you are a salaried worker. We ensure that your salary comes to us at EcoBank.
Okay.
And then we try to make it flexible such that there won't be any reason for you to make it to default.
All right. Okay. So we've spoken about homes, mortgages, but what about lands? And tell us what you have to offer besides mortgages when it comes to home financing or home improvements.
Okay. As I indicated earlier, it's quite hard to come by a huge sum of money to buy a property. So EcoBank has come up with various products to help you from land purchase all through to furnishing. So we've partnered with a number of companies. We would give you money to purchase a land over a period of 5 years to make the payments once you identify the plot of land that you want. Usually we would prefer problem-free land. And we have also partnered with companies that sell, real estate developers that sell land. So you walk to us, we can direct you to some of our partners. You pick a land that you want, or you identify a land that you want, and then we'll help you make the payment over a term of 5 years.
So you mentioned earlier that the person needs to be a salaried worker. The salary must come through EcoBank. But what other criteria must the person meet? Does the amount you earn, say, for example, at the end of the month matter?
It does, just so you're able to repay comfortably. We do a calculation based on your salary. We don't take more than 50% of your monthly salary towards these repayments.
So, I mean, averagely, I know the cost of homes differ, but averagely, what would you say should be your income if you would want to access a mortgage or a home financing plan or offer from EcoBank?
It depends on your taste. It depends on your location. It depends on where you identify the house.
Okay.
I mean, assuming you found a house that cost about $35,000, like what our partners are offering at Rehoboth. Once you earn about 8,000, 9,000, we can help you make that payment over the period of 20 years. Yeah.
Okay, great. But age also matters, right?
Age matters.
Yes.
Yes, we factor in your retirement age of 60 that we go by in Ghana. So we don't lend above the remainder of your years to retire.
Let me come to Kelvin. Kelvin, you are with DBS Industries Limited, and whenever we hear DBS, we're thinking roofing. I remember I had you here about 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about your new product, which was concrete, and you did a lot of that. But tell us more that you have to offer as DBS.
Okay, thank you for having us, and a very good morning to our viewers. So at DBS Industries, we have aluminium sheets, and we also have alu-zinc sheets, which is made of aluminium and then zinc. And then we have Euro tiles, we have shingles, we have PVC rain gutters, we have fascia boards, and then we have steel trusses as well.
Okay, so are these the steel trusses?
Yes, these are the steel trusses that you are seeing. And then all of these that I mentioned come in profiles, or should I say designs.
Okay.
We have the MSL, or modern self-lock. We have the self-lock. We have the IBR.
So these are the shingles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And these come as finished products. Yes, so with these ones, your order comes in, we supply, we install, it's done. For the alu-zinc sheets, aluminium sheets, once payment is made, you get it in 3 days. For steel trusses, once payment is made, you get it in 5 days. Yes.
Okay, so the shingles you said are already made, so once
Yes.
So if I want a color that you don't have yet?
We have a variety of colors at DBS Industries.
You know, there are some people who are troublesome, yeah? They may want some odd color. So I mean, what I'm just trying to ask is, do you offer customized products?
Yes. Customers walk into any of our branches, and then we take them through the kinds that we have, the colors, the various thicknesses, and then they make their decision. They make payments, we produce, and then install.
There's another product that you have, the ColorLink Plus.
Yes.
What exactly is that?
The ColorLink Plus is our premium material. We give a 20-year warranty against fading on the ColorLink Plus.
Okay.
And we issue a warranty certificate to back our claim at DBS Industries. So some might say, oh, if that's your premium, maybe I don't have that amount, I can't afford the premium. We also have the super products, and we also have the rainbow. The super comes with 5 years warranty, and then the rainbow comes with 2 years warranty. So whatever amounts that you have, nothing like we pride ourselves in being there for people. So no matter your income, no matter your income level or whatever, you just walk in, we'll find something for you.
And this ColorLink Plus and the others that you mentioned, do they cover the different types of roof sheets and roof material that you have?
Even in the ColorLink Plus, we also have the Marine ColorLink Plus, which is made specifically for those on the coastal belts.
Okay,
yes.
That's great.
And we also issue out warranty certificates for that as well.
Interesting. Yeah. So I remember the last time you came, you spoke about your concrete products, but for those who didn't watch, just tell us more about what you offer and how they can make purchases.
Okay, so a little over a year ago, we started with our concrete products, and we have building blocks. We have the Supreme stone blocks, and then we have the Suncrete blocks, and we have the engineering blocks. The Supreme stone blocks are made of quarry dust, sand, and cement. And then the Suncrete blocks is made of sand and cement. The engineering blocks, however, are made according to specifications. So somebody will walk in, I want this percentage of this, that we also produce. And we have these in the solid and hollow forms in both 6 and 5 inches. And we also have pavement blocks, which I think I mentioned the last time I was here. We have pavement blocks in different shapes, thicknesses, colors. We have the interlocking, random bell, rectangular, square. It's a variety. So anywhere or anything, any choice that you've made, you just give us a call, and then we supply.
Great. So I was going to ask you how what you have to offer links with a theme where you live matters, but you've answered that already when you spoke about the coastal belt. So, I mean, DBS will cater for you. No matter where you live, they have a product that will suit your needs. So in wrapping up this conversation, we're looking forward to the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair, which will start tomorrow. Our first clinic is at the Achimota Retail Center. Tell us why people must come there and why they should look for your stand. Let me start with you, Nanaya.
Okay, so we'll be happy to receive a number of people walk in tomorrow because we've put together a nice package for you. We're going to help you identify lands that you may be happy with. We're going to take you through the financing options that we have. We are also going to, with DBS being around, with all the other partners being around, if you identify any product that you are interested in, you just pick an invoice from them, come to us, and then we'll do the financing for you.
Oh, wow. That's good. It doesn't get any better if you ask me. But for you, Kelvin, why should people look for DBS?
Yes, I think she mentioned special packages. Yes, we also have special packages for those that will be visiting us there. And we also have payment plans for individuals that don't have the full amount. So you receive your invoice, you are required to pay X amount, but you don't have X amount. So, okay, you can bring us Y amount, and then we produce it. And then when the remaining balance is settled, we supply and then install. So we urge our viewers and our customers to come to visit us tomorrow.
We definitely will be there. Thank you so much for passing through. Kelvin Mosiah, Sales and Customs Service Manager at DBS Industries. And we also had Nanaya Japong, who is Head Consumer Marketing at EcoBank. And I'm sure they've given you reason to visit the Achimota Retail Center tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It runs through till Sunday. Please do visit the exhibitors and vendors there, and you know, it's a one-stop shop for all your home needs. We are not done with our conversation. When we come back, we'll be speaking to cities and habitats. To stay for more. It's 32 minutes after 9. This is the AM show, and I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. We continue our conversation on the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, which kickstarts tomorrow. And joining me to continue our conversation is Daniel Ohini-Edu, his project manager at Cities and Habitats. And if you watch us a lot, you would have heard about Cities and Habitats Rent to Own program. Good morning to you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm blessed. Yourself?
All right, I'm doing great by God's grace. So let's zoom into our conversation. We're talking about where you live matters.
Yeah.
And that's our theme for this year's edition of the Habitat Fair.
Right.
Why is that important? Why should we even begin to think about the correlation between where we live and how it helps us as individuals?
Right. You see, the world is changing. You have climate change. You have lots of, what I call it, diseases, coming. You have flood issues. We have traffic. So many things happen, you understand? And we, as a nation, we believe that Cities and Habitats, or the Planned City Extension Project, believes that we need to move from where we develop around slums to properly planned areas, so that in the end, if anything happens, for instance, security, it's easy for you to have the security officers, access where you live to help you. You need to be in areas where areas where they are not flood prone. You need to live in areas where, for instance, there is an outbreak. You can easily have your way out. Let me quickly say that it's on record that most people who, for instance, perished during the peak of the COVID were in areas that were tight. There are some things that
When you say tight, what do you mean?
I mean crowded.
Okay.
You understand? Crowded. So if we don't begin to live or plan out areas where, what I'll call communities that breathe, where there's freshness, where there's, is to good facilities and amenities, you can live, you can work, you can have recreation, at the same time, it becomes it's going to be very difficult going forward because our population is growing. It's urbanizing very fast, even in the rural areas, so it benefits you in the long run.
Interesting. So we are starting the fair tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do you have to offer?
Well, we have some good packages. What we have decided is to freeze. Our policy is that if there will be increment, there will be increment within the first, for the first 5 years, which is ordinarily like your 20% that you pay. And the increment happens when we have these inflationary trends or tendencies happening. But we're going to be freezing for those who apply. We're going to be freezing these increments, for the next 2 to 3 years. We're going to be freezing these, interests or increments so that clients will be comfortable. So more or less your prices or the price at which you buy them or the price at which you sign up is going to be hedged or frozen for the next 2 to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
For those that sign within this period.
Okay. And besides that, do you have any discount packages?
Yeah, our rates are already heavily discounted. We've made it so possible, as I said the other day, that, to the extent that if your take-home pay is 2,000 Ghana cedis, you can own a very decent house.
Okay. Where are your houses located?
Pram.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does it work? Because we've spoken to other companies that offer homes, immediately you pay. There are those who say, when you pay, we complete a project we've started. How does it work with Cities and Habitats?
Yeah, so for ours, you need to sign up. You can pay your 20%. You have to pay at least up to 20%, before your house is delivered to you. Depending on your payment plan, if you choose up to 25 years, it means that you are paying regularly, normal payer, your 20% will be somewhere around 5 years. Ordinarily, your house will be completed within 3 years.
Okay.
Within 3 years. But if you are paying upfront, so your 20% upfront, then you're going to get your home within 12 months or earlier. So once you have done that 20%, you can move into your house, and then the rest, you take your time to pay. So we say you pay at a price you can afford, and then at a pace that you can pay. So based or depending on your payment plan, if it's 5 years or 10 years or 1 year or 20 years, you can have that flexibility.
Okay.
Next year, things may change too.
Are these homes pre-designed, or once I sign up, I can sit with your architect or your designers to design a home that meets my specifications?
Yeah, so our homes are pre-designed.
Okay.
The payment plans are based on the types of houses that we have. 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, detached and semi-detached. We have the villas, we have the row houses. We have the beachfront, which is also coming up. And then we have the 1-bedroom, semi-detached, expandable to 2 and expandable to 3. Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So, what do people look forward to? Give us your final words as you leave, considering that we are starting the clinic tomorrow.
Well, as many as are looking for homes, not just homes, decent, quality, affordable homes should come to the fair. The first clinic at Chimota, the West Hills, and then the main fair. Because this period, you can have it better than we are offering. For those who delayed 2 years ago, last year, some signed. Now they come and the prices, but they didn't continue. They come and prices have gone up. And they're like, wow, a lot of regrets. So people should, as many as are desirous of owning the homes, should come. This year we are delivering 50 homes.
That's your first batch.
That's the first batch. Next year we are delivering 100 homes. So it is a very serious project. In fact, what you see over here is they are virtually completed. We'll start delivering from this August, gradually. So as many as possible should take advantage. Rent to own is a revolution. It's a revolution in the housing industry. And I've said somewhere that it's one of the most sought after projects, housing projects, currently as we speak. There's pressure all over, but patrons should come and believe and get it.
We definitely will. Thank you so much. Daniel Ohiniedu is project manager at Cities and Habitats, and he's given you a good reason why you should sign up with the company so that you can get your home delivered to you in the shortest possible time. They say rent to own and pay at a pace you can pay. He's made a very bold statement here. If you earn as little as 2,000 cedis, you can't qualify to get a home with Cities and Habitats. That's exciting, isn't it? Thank you once again for joining us. And we will join you at the Achimota Retail Center when the program kickstarts tomorrow. We've also got Bonzi Akwa, who is Vice President of Virtual Security Africa, joining the conversation. Good morning to you, sir, and thanks for joining the program. Okay, so I'm told that Mr. Akwa will be joining us shortly. After this, do stay. All right, let's talk security now when it comes to housing. Bonzi Akwa is Vice President of Virtual Security Africa. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, so your company has grown from being an exhibitor at our fairs, and you're now sponsoring the program. That's progress and that's growth. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But let's start off on this point. What do you have to offer?
So we're doing the same thing, basically security. We basically provide security for homes, for residences, for SMEs, for organizations. And then for this year's fair, we actually, going by the theme, where we say is where you live matters. So we want to try as much as possible to make owning a security system less of a burden for the individual because security is paramount. So we want to actually, try and help this year's fair and to live up to its dreams or to live up to its theme. Yeah.
Okay, so you said you offer electronic security services. What exactly do you mean?
So basically, we will do the perimeter protection system, which we always advise our prospective clients that that's the go-to first. So once you have a house and you really want to go into security, would advise you to first of all have your perimeter protected. And sometimes we do that by getting our clients to put in what we call electric fencing or barbed wire systems or intrusion alarm systems. And then before we would advise you to even go in for a CCTV surveillance system. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's, I think that now there's such a craze for the CCTV, but you've just drawn my mind to the fact that protecting your perimeter first is actually the way to go.
That is the key. Yeah.
So we're seeing some of your products on display there. And we've heard from some of the exhibitors and sponsors before you came in. And times are hard.
Yes.
And people would want to say, I really want to secure my home, but I may not be able to afford upfront payments because, this is technology and technology is quite expensive.
Yeah.
So what do you have to offer in terms of payment plans?
Okay, so last year, 2021, we had opportunity to engage a lot of clients. So we picked a lot of numbers, a lot of call cards, and we were able to turn most of these leads into opportunities. And the way we did that was by offering flexible payment terms, some as much as 12 months flexible payment terms, which we are able to do. And this year we are in talks with a bank to try and as much as possible also make the cost of owning a security system very, very affordable. So you can basically get an interest-free loan from the bank, and then we would go ahead and provide you with any sort of electronic security you might want, be it fire alarm, intrusion alarm, CCTV systems, or access control systems, yes. So this year, I mean, we are bracing ourselves for making the cost of owning electronic security very affordable for our patrons.
I know that you would have to visit a facility or a home to determine what kind of security system will be most appropriate, and also in terms of the electric fence, and it depends on the size of the house, yes, and the plot it covers and all that. But on the average, I mean, if you're able to tell us, let's say I have a 2-bedroom on one plot of land, how much do you think, on the average, that I'm likely to spend on getting at least a barbed wire or an electric fence with CCTV?
So if you have a 2-bedroom and probably you'd using maybe a 70 by 50 feet of plot of land, probably between 3,500 to 4,000 Ghana cedis, you can secure your perimeter with either an intrusion alarm system or an electric fence system. I mean, we are that affordable, yes.
Yeah, that is affordable. Yes. I almost said, wow, yes. That is affordable. So that's some good news. So we are starting the clinic tomorrow, and you definitely would have a place stationed at the fair. Tell us if there are any special offers beyond the flexible payment structure that you offer patrons. So
what we do help patrons with is free consulting. So we would actually engage you, I mean, come to your residence without charging you anything, and then help you decide exactly what you need, because we sometimes realize that each and every household with their own peculiar security needs, depending on where the house is sited or located. So once we come, we discuss with you, and then, because someone would come straight away that I want CCTV, but then would, you know, get together with you, look at your premise, look at where your threats are, and then be able to advise you exactly what you want to do. So patrons should come. I mean, apart from the fact that we would make sure that they can afford the security, we would also give them the necessary consultation for free to make sure that they get the good system and a system that works. And one thing we also do is we offer 6 months free after sales support. So, I mean, anytime we give you the system, we stick with you for 6 months to make sure that it works, and it works perfectly well.
Please sign me up as your first.
Thank you. We will.
Client. Thank you so much, Bonzi Akwa. He's Vice President of Virtual Security Africa, and we've been talking about the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. This year's theme is Where You Live Matters. Please, you cannot argue when it comes to security. It's the most important thing that you need when it comes to a home. Secure your home, and then every other thing will fall in place comfortably. So do make a date tomorrow at the Achimota Retail Center from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So quickly, we'll be wrapping up the show, but this is important information that you need. The attention of World Vision has been drawn to a live television broadcast by a group of people operating under the names World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation on Energy TV and ABTV satellite television stations since June 28, 2022. A review of the video recordings of the programs indicates that these groups are using the logo and some images of World Vision with the view of getting interested people to register with various amounts of money in return for corresponding financial support. World Vision is concerned that its logo and images are being used by the so-called World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation to collect money from the unsuspecting public. World Vision therefore dissociates itself from the so-called World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation and their operations, and wishes to caution the general public as such. We call on the members of the World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation to desist from using the logo, images, and any other material for their activities forthwith. World Vision is a Christian relief development and advocacy organization dedicated to working with children, families, and communities to overcome poverty and injustice. World Vision has been working in all regions of Ghana for the past 42 years. For more information on World Vision Ghana, visit their website and you will get all the details. And hello Ghana, happy moment is here. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water from Casapreco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water. Text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780# option 2. *780# option 2 and follow the prompts on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners of this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks and more instantly. Please don't waste any time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks and Awake Drinking Water and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform, and this advert is FDA approved. Terms and conditions apply. Finally, a person who is not required to register for VAT may voluntarily apply to be registered. A voluntary applicant shall be registered as a taxable person where the Commissioner General is satisfied that the person has a fixed place of abode or business or reasonably believes that the person keeps proper accounting records related to any business activity carried on by that person, or the person submits regular and reliable tax returns or reasonably believes that the person is fit and proper to be registered. That'll be it for today's edition of the AM Show. I'm grateful that you could join Benjamin and I. Apologies we couldn't take your comments and on Facebook and your phone calls on our big stories. Hopefully we'll be able to do so tomorrow. But until then, take care. See you tomorrow again at 6 a.m. God willing. Up next is News Desk. Do stay.